Hey, on this episode of Task Force Geek, we will have writer Greg Wright and artist Scott Sackett for Heaven's Rejects. Number one, it came out today. We'll talk all about that. We're very excited to have those guys. And we're also going to be talking about the Warner Brothers shakeup, all the crazy stuff that's happening over there. We might be talking about the D23 event with all of the announcements that they made with Disney. And we might talk about artificial intelligent art. I don't know if we have time for that, but in any case, I'm going to try to wrap this up earlier than last time. So anyway, that's all coming up now. Welcome to Task Force Geek. My name is Dirk Cooper, and today I am joined by Walt.
How you doing, everyone?
Maybe or maybe not, depending on his computer.
Yeah, let's see how long we stick around.
Everyone cross their fingers for Walt's
You gotta
computer.
believe. You gotta believe.
Right? That's right. What is that hat? I can't just pretend like you're not wearing that hat.
I've worn this hat before, so when you go to the conventions, they have those $30 grab boxes with all sorts of stuff.
Yes.
When they first started doing it, when they started giving out really good ish, I got this hat in there along with another bunch of like $150, $160 worth of stuff for $30.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
Nice.
These days you pay like $45 and you're like, oh, I got a belt buckle and a wallet.
No kidding. Choosing the ways. All right, and also we have regular contributor Scott. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, Dirk. I was telling you earlier that this weekend, the weight of the fact that my comic book is coming out this week is out. I have one in my hands.
Oh, there we go.
It was just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And so that was pretty momentous for me. It was a, I don't want to be cliche and say one of those, I can die now kind of things. It wasn't that. I'm not ready to die.
You got a show to do, pal.
Yeah, exactly. But it really felt like, it felt like the culmination of a lot of work, not just on this comic, which there was a lot of work that went into this comic, but just the culmination of all the, and I posted this on Facebook, all the submissions I sent in. Dirk, I mailed in tons of submissions back when you would mail them in the mail back in the early 2000s.
I have done that as well.
And
it's a thankless task.
It is a thankless task. I've stood in many portfolio lines at conventions, and I've talked to tons of editors, and it's been, and I don't want to say all that to say it's been like, oh man, I've been in the salt mine and I've made, it's paid off or whatever. Because really, honestly, I enjoyed all that stuff. I would, if you told me I would take the exact same path, would I do it again? And I would say absolutely, because I enjoyed every bit of that stuff. It was exciting. It was, but it feels like this is like the next level or something,
Yeah, I mean, Scott's talking about it, and we will get to this here in a moment, but he's not just our contributor today. He's also our guest, because Heaven's Rejects number one is on your shelf right now, which is pretty exciting. And because of that, there it is. I mean, he's got it in his midst.
They're not supposed to sell it till tomorrow, I think. But
okay, I was going to ask about that too, because it's like I thought Wednesday was New Comics Day.
Wednesday's the day. I went by a shop because I'm going to be doing a signing tomorrow at 4:30 at New World Comics here in Oklahoma City.
Good.
And they were there, and they were kind enough to give me one. So
cool. Yeah.
I tried to pay him for it, but they didn't make me pay, so that was great because I get.
Wow, you're already getting the perks.
Not only did I get a free comic, but I get my royalties off of this.
Wow.
And Greg does too, by the way. Greg gets a little bit.
The rest of them,
I think that's technically shoplifting.
the rest of them are not going to go that easy.
Anybody in the store.
The other guy who's talking here is what I was getting to is because Heaven's Rejects just came out. I thought we never had the writer of Heaven's Rejects on here, and I contacted Greg, and he was gracious enough to literally at the last minute to come on here and join us today. So welcome, Greg.
Welcome to all of you, and thank you for having me on and everything. I thought when you were talking, well, I was like, I should get a hat on because, as you can see, this room is lit like some sort of Eastern European prison. Without the hat, I'm pretty reflective. So
well, I understand how that goes.
I don't want anybody, damaging their eyes looking at me.
Well, we all appreciate that. I'll appreciate that very much. So there's our crew tonight, folks. Let's see. I'm going to try not to yell because Sean got on to me. He says, "You're yelling through the whole show," and it's like, well, I'm not trying to do that. Like I hear you guys at a certain level, like a certain audio level, and like me, I don't know. I don't know how my audio level is compared to you guys. So I'm going to try to chill out. I'm going to try to chillax.
It's been fine with me.
All right.
Yeah, yours has been fine. I'm a loud talker, so don't use me as any kind of gauge.
All right. Well, first up, we have a little housekeeping. Here it comes.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
I still love that.
Yeah.
So great.
So, here we are. We have a guest tonight. I didn't plan on that, but here he is. I think maybe if we don't get through all of our topics, we'll do exactly this next week. We'll just have our contributors on again. And but then after that, if you've got a Kickstarter going on, if you've got you have a book that is coming out, a comic, you're an artist, writer, whatever it is that you do, we're looking to talk to you. If you talk anything geek adjacent, I mean, comics are kind of our wheelhouse, but anything else is cool. We've had whatever actors on here, we've had directors of movies and all kinds of stuff. Get in touch with us.
Please do.
Yeah, we'll be right here. taskforcegeek@gmail.com.
Yeah,
Get in touch with us.
I was going to say, after I was on last week, I immediately noticed a bump in my website traffic. I mean, so I mean,
good.
People are watching.
Well, and we have a pretty good track record for Kickstarters too.
We had three in 3 weeks. Get over their goals.
We've pushed people over their goals several times, or just helped out. I mean, even some of the contributors here help out on the thing. It's worth a few sales just by being on here. But yeah, I mean, the people who are watching this thing and our stuff. Let me also put this up here since we're talking about this. We're also on YouTube, and our YouTube viewers grow over time, particularly the week following the broadcast and stuff. And we have pretty good views on there. It's not bad. And that might send some people over to you as well. And we are very gracious to our guests. We're not playing gotcha politics here or anything. We're just trying to get your stuff out there in front of people. So, we're not a bad place to send people if they want to hear an interview with you and get some information about your projects. Not a bad place to drop by. So in any case, one more time, you get in touch with us at taskforcegeek@gmail.com. And we're on every Tuesday. But even if you can't make it on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Central, we'll do an interview with you on the weekend or something and post that on YouTube as well. So you don't have to be here, although this is where the interaction is and all the excitement stuff, because it's, people are used to watching and so on.
Oh, we've had some moments.
We've had a few moments, some moments that had to be removed from YouTube.
Right.
Oh, no.
So sometimes it pays to watch live. You get to see all
Greg,
the
we have goals now. We
Yeah,
we need to work on this, man.
You haven't
We'll
seen
get
it
this
yet, but I
episode
don't
banned.
have any pants on.
We're saving that for the second hour.
Right?
or Task
Task
Force
Force Geek after dark.
After dark.
That's right. Let's see. Also, hey, we have a thing called Task Force Geek Creator.spring, right? Let's see if I can get the little picture up here. Where the heck is that? Oh my gosh. It's been so long that I'm just messing up all this stuff.
I
There it is.
am currently
Look at
working
that.
on 2 shirts on there, so for to put on there. So
We got some shirts on there, hats, bags, all the stuff with the Task Force Geek logo on it. So there you go. If you're interested in that, go to there. What else we got? If you're watching us live, please share us to your live feed. So if you're on Twitter, on these 3 accounts, Task Force Geek on YouTube, Dirk.Hooper, that's my main account on Facebook, and on Twitter, it's at Dirk Hooper Plus. Then please share us to your platform so your platform becomes our platform, and all of the people who are following you will see us live. We appreciate that. And if you're watching us, don't be afraid to comment. So that's it. That's all the goodies. That's all we got. It's time for our feature presentation. Here it comes. All right. We're going to talk tonight about Heaven's Rejects. Here it comes. There they are right there. To start out with, we will get to the actual comic, but we're also going to interview Greg. But Scott, show us the comic. Let's see it one more time, please. There it is. You want to?
I should show some interior.
Yeah.
There's some interior.
Let's see what's going on in there. There's the notice on the creators. We got the top 2 creators right there.
Let's see.
What?
I want to show you my. Let me. Yes, go ahead.
There's
my favorite panel
on page 2. So, like right away, we start out with the goods.
Right.
This is my favorite panel right here, Dirk.
Which one?
These
2?
3 right here.
Okay.
These 3.
Those 3.
She's running from the zombies. Oops. She's running from the zombies, and she's like whacking them with this sign.
It's pretty cool.
I like that. And then over here, we have, you get this glary. We got the giant hellworm that they're fighting.
I have the 2 of you on here, but can I ask who the colorist is? Because whoever did that did a great job, by the way.
The colorist is Fabi Marquez, and the cover artist for that is Alex Monick. And we also have another cover by Jason Westlake, and I have it upstairs, and I'm woefully unprepared. I would take too long to catch my breath again.
Greg, what are Fabi and Alec working on now? I mean, didn't they both move on to? Didn't one of them move on to DC? Isn't Fabi doing something for DC, or am I crazy?
I believe she's doing something for.
Or is it Boom?
It's whoever is doing the Critical Role comics.
Oh,
she's working on the Critical comics. She also is doing the covers and some of the interior art for another Source Point Press comic based on the board game Mysterium.
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
So, but man, I wasn't ready for that quiz. I don't know what.
Sorry.
No, you did good.
And I think Alex. I mean, both of them. And I think I said this last week that both of them have. I think one of the 2, maybe it's Alex, is doing something for Boom or DC or something. Yeah, one of the
the covers. I've seen all 4 of them now, and they just look great. I mean, Alex is a woman, correct?
Correct. Alexandria. Short form.
Okay. She did.
Alexandria. Okay.
I want to get the pronouns right. She did a great job. She did a great job on all 4 of those. Really, really expressive, beautiful covers. I mean, she really came through for you guys.
Yeah, fantastic. She's really great.
For sure. All right. Well, Greg is the only person who hasn't been on here, so I want to make sure to focus in on him here. Greg Wright here as a way of introduction. I'm reading this for the first time, so if I screw it up, please forgive me. Greg Wright holds a PhD in English from Michigan State University, and he has written several comic book series, in addition to Heaven's Rejects, including the pulp-fueled Wild Bullets, the steampunk mashup Monstrous, that sounds cool, and the story of foul-mouthed butt-kicking angels in Heaven's Rejects. He has also adapted the satirical fantasy Claim, A Song of Ire and Vice from the Deepwater Games throne-stealing card game, as well as the Holliston graphic novels based on Adam Green's cult favorite horror sitcom on Shudder. We love Shudder around here. That's awesome. His tabloid novel series follows a mother-daughter team of paranormal investigative journalists. I worked it out. Battling conspiracies, cryptids, and craziness, of course. Welcome, Greg Wright. How you doing?
Pretty good. I wrote that, and I wrote it in the third person, so it made it sound like somebody else wrote it.
We all do that.
Extra fancy.
That's the way we do it. I'll tell you what. There's a lot of people that I ask for a bio, and it's written in first person, and that is awkward.
Right. Yeah.
I have to preface it somehow, going, "This was written by the author or the artist," and so this is what they have to say.
My life began at a very young age.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Well, some people don't give me a bio at all, and I make up a bio for them. Those are always fun.
Oh,
Those are the best. No, those are the best.
Yeah.
I'm very gracious, I promise. In any case, okay. Well, Greg, I'm going to put you up here, and I'm going to ask you, what is your origin story? Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what got you into writing.
I grew up in Michigan. I've visited many other places, but my full-time home has always been in Michigan. And I literally can't remember a time before I was writing. It's very much sort of part of my identity. My first work was kind of derivative. In kindergarten, I wrote about how the Ghostbusters saved New York. You know, they were gracious enough not to sue me.
I've heard that one somewhere.
I've always been writing. I was into different ways of writing. Like I studied journalism for a while, English. I have a PhD in English, and I teach composition mostly these days. But I've taught creative writing in the past, and I've taught screenwriting. So my background with screenwriting has been very helpful for thinking about the story structure and how the pieces fit together in a comic book script, because they're very similar
Sure.
in view anyway. And I would recommend any aspiring comic book writers read some screenwriting books, especially stuff about story structure, like Story, for instance, or Save the Cat. There's a number of different things. The Sid Field books, all of those are good. And also reading comic book scripts as well as movie scripts. Very helpful stuff for people who want to go, people who are foolish enough to follow in my wake.
Well, since you're talking a little bit about craft, let me ask a few questions about writing. Are you?
Wait, did you say craft with an FT at the end?
Yes.
I see what you're doing there.
And with a C instead of a K. Are you a pantser or a plotter?
Like, I put my pants back on. I've heard it as like swoopers and bangers. That's, I think, the Vonnegut version of that.
Of course.
And it honestly depends. Like, I have a writing process, but I'm almost always retweaking it and doing it. I outline pretty much every comic book I write at least like 3 or 4 times before I write the script, because I really want to make sure that I know where I'm going and I can have it balanced out with the page count.
Plotter.
Sounds like a plotter to me.
I think more plotter. Yeah, most likely.
I think he's a plotter. I mean, his scripts are pretty tight. I mean, they were very. It was obvious that he thought them out before he, to me at least.
So didn't play like the sequel series for Star Wars?
No, God.
Something where it's like
you're making it up per issue.
Yeah, that was really weird in retrospect. That's sort of what we got, and we all kind of. I feel like all of them, all of the world has experienced a writing workshop, just because we've seen sort of the storytelling on get passed without probably enough sort of foregrounding as to what the expectations were.
Right.
If only
Yeah.
it was like a major movie studio with
Right.
like some real like experienced executives that were involved, maybe they could have caught something like that and planned for it.
Huh.
Yeah.
If only.
Yeah.
If only. Maybe next time.
I guess it's just sort of like when the market is demanding so much product, it really kind of, you know, forces you.
All right.
Forces.
I mean, we get
See
it.
what you
We're
did there
savvy.
too.
We're savvy to what you're talking
You
about.
can cut my mic anytime.
What kind of tools do you use in your writing process? Are you the type of person that uses like index cards, or do you do it all on a computer, Scrivener? What do you use?
Mostly my hands. No, I write everything in Word, and I do these outlines. So I'll do a synopsis, I'll do a beat sheet, I'll do a page breakdown. At least those three for pretty much everything. But other times, like I'll have a note section where I'm writing little bits of dialogue, like, "Oh, I really like this," or "Oh, this is good," and I'm going to steal it for my book.
Right.
Things I encounter.
Tell me, I brought us out here because you were talking, Scott, but I want to invite both of our guests and anyone who's watching. If you have any questions for Greg, please chime in.
Have you ever? I have a question,
Yeah.
because I'm not a writer. In fact, I hate writing.
I hate it too, but it's the only way I know how to get anything written.
Yeah, but I've always thought about, and this, I'm just shooting you this idea. I've always wanted to do a comic book that was practically plotted from a role-playing game, like a campaign.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
That's that Critical Role that he mentioned.
Yeah, so
not too long. That's exactly what they're doing.
Oh, really? Because I've always wanted to do that. It's like, let's make the greatest character ever and see if he gets killed in the first 3 pages.
Yeah,
there's been a couple of those over the years. And there's also even some tools for doing that. Like they have not just Dungeons and Dragons role playing, but like the first one that comes to mind is Fiasco, which is like 1970s crime movies, and you're all actively collaborating on this character-driven movie that is going to end like in a Coen Brothers kind of disaster. So there's a lot of stuff out there that like kind of feed for that, and sometimes it's just fun, and sometimes it's like, look, there's a kernel of something that I can make into something more here.
Okay, I've always wondered if because I know like a lot of us comic book nerds, like the role-playing games and all that stuff, and I've always wondered if anybody has ever had the idea of just using an actual a role-playing game as the basis of their comic book. So
like I said, I can think of, I'm sure when my mind is calmer, I can think of a bunch of them, but it's been done. I'll tell you what, though, what you should do is you should pay me and then write it yourself.
That's funny.
The thing about what you're talking about, Walt, is that you would have fully realized characters, because each one of the kind of like actors, but each of the individual players has probably put a lot of thought into their how they're going to play their characters. So you get these out of the box. You get these really interesting these interesting characters that are singularly motivated, like they each have their own motivations and their their own goals and stuff.
Plus all your friends get credit,
right
for character creation credit, slip them a little royalty here and there.
Sure.
My D&D group is a bunch of murder hobos, though, so ours wouldn't be that interesting.
That's the problem. Is murder hobos is the phrase,
and that's how we got Heaven's Rejects.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice.
Greg, before we get to Heaven's Rejects, let's talk a little bit about some of your prior projects, or the projects that are going on right now.
Sure.
Let's talk about the thing that's for Shudder. What's What's the connection there?
Yeah. So Adam Green is a horror filmmaker and a writer and a producer and all around good guy. Aeroscope Productions. He's put out the Hatchet movies and the horror movie Frozen, not the Disney movie Frozen. Has seasons 1 and 2 of Shudder. I'm sorry, seasons 1 and 2 of Houston on Shudder, and it's him and his friends depicting, what it was like being a broke horror filmmaker in Houston, Massachusetts, and it's by horror nerds for horror nerds. So it's chock full of Easter eggs, and I took those characters and wrote original scripts for the 3 graphic novels that have come out. They're a lot of fun. It's Friendship is Tragic, Houston Carnival of Carnage, and Houston Goes to Hell. So it's kind of the Houston Goes to Hell would be a great companion piece for Heaven's Rejects for people who are like, I don't know, I'm going to heaven and hell and chainsaws and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. What about Wild Bullets?
Wild Bullets is one that if I can ask people to pre-order it, that'd be great. You can do that through Simon & Schuster. You can do it through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever. It's called Wild Bullets Homicide for the Holidays. And it's all of the Wild Bullets from Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, as well as some original short stories and original art that haven't been published before. It's a pulp mashup murder mystery where each of the Bullet family takes a turn telling the story. And when they do, a different artist takes over in a different style and genre. So sci-fi, horror, Western, romance, war, and adventure, all in one pulp mashup murder mystery that takes place on these different holidays with the dysfunctional Bullet family. So it's a lot of fun. And it's also something I've been working on for like 8 years.
Wow.
Such a big operation to pull all these people together. But I think it pays off. I think people will enjoy that as well. And if I can talk about Monstrous, there's a new Monstrous coming out tomorrow as well. Monstrous Book of the Dead, the 4th issue, the final issue of that arc, is also in comic book shops tomorrow. That's a mummy story. Monstrous is a lot of different characters and a lot of different threads set in Frankenstein's Europe, where they have steam-powered robots fighting classic monsters.
Hello.
Nice.
Yeah, Frankenstein.
I like that.
Igor.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Who's putting that out?
That's also Source Point. Most of my stuff comes out through Source Point Press because I'm lazy.
They love you.
Oh, no, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Monster sounds awesome. I'm going to check that out because I'm really big into both steampunk and horror. So that sounds like like a sweet spot.
Because I didn't even know I was going to be on. But I went into the office today to talk with some people. We've got a big event planning for Monstrous where it's going to be a crossover of a lot of different collaborators. It's going to be called Gods and Monsters. And I haven't talked about it anywhere, so you're getting this exclusive.
Wow, great.
All right.
We love that.
It's going to be really wild. And Monstrous is just sort of like the creative project that just keeps on giving. We're in our volume now. We have at least 3 more planned. So it's pretty cool.
So you have 2 comics coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And I ate A&W for lunch for dinner to celebrate tonight. Young as it was.
You're living it up. You're living the high life.
Yeah.
He's rolling in that comic book money, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
Making it rain.
I think my mom paid for it.
That's perfect. So tell us how you came up with Heaven's Rejects, and to bring Scott into it, how did you 2 meet? I mean, I originally thought, Greg, you were around here. So it's interesting how you and Scott hooked up there.
Well, we haven't hooked up yet, but the night's still young. But this is an idea I had kicked around for a long time of just like, wouldn't it be funny to see angels, getting kicked out of heaven for being too rebellious, too off-brand for heaven, and then like how would they live on Earth? Well, the first thing that they'd struggle with is they have to pay for the rent. So what would their skill set be? Well, they fight evil, but fighting evil doesn't really pay the bills very well, so they wind up having to for demons, devils, and stuff like that. Still doing good by eliminating their rivals, but eventually, it's obviously going to come to a head. I had written some notes and a little mini script years ago, and I just sort of put it in a drawer. Didn't really do much with it, and I initially didn't meet Scott Sackett. He met Travis McIntyre at New York Comic Con, and he said, "Hey, is there somebody that I could work with or something like that?" And he's like, Greg Wright is he's pretty lazy, so I'll find.
I said, "I'll work cheap," and he goes, "I know just the guy."
right. I feel like I'm saying too often that I'm lazy because I don't really want to work at it. But and he and I have talked on the phone for like years at this point, right, Scott?
Yeah, and we met in Tulsa that one time, so we've met. But
at a convention.
There was a comic convention in Tulsa, and Greg emailed me or texted me or something on Friday and was like, "Oh, hey, are you close to Tulsa? Because I'm gonna be in Tulsa at this con." And so I said, "Oh, I can go." And so I hopped in after work. I hopped in the car, and me and my friend Dave drove up there, and we talked our way into the con by telling them we were part of Source Point Press. And I don't think it was a Wizard World. It may have been a Wizard World con. I don't know,
right.
but
I think it was Wizard World Tulsa.
Yeah, and
we got an invoice as you two came in. We got an invoice. We had to pay $1,000.
What?
Good luck getting that.
That's not true. That's not even a little bit.
He's full of crap.
What? Yeah,
I think Dirk pronounces it craft.
Yeah, he's full of craft. I got it. No, but I had met I had met Travis at New York Comic Con, and I had pages from a wrestling comic I had drawn for an anthology, and I got to talking to Travis, and in the course of talking to Travis, I told him, I said, I'm doing this stuff, and people will pay me, $50 or $60 a page, but it never goes out anywhere, or it goes in anthology and gets ignored. I want to work on books. And I said, I don't care if I get a couple $100 for drawing the thing. I care about getting published. And he said, well, you need to find a writer that is prolific and has like kind of a track record of publishing. And he told me that he told me, now I don't know if it's still true, Heaven's Rejects may spoil this, but Travis told me that he has never lost money on a Greg Wright book. So,
Hey.
Yeah, if that needs updating, I don't want to update it.
Right, exactly. That's kind of a ringing endorsement.
But anyways, yeah. So he and at the con that night, I hung out with Travis through a comics experience thing, and Source Point Press at the time was publishing comics experience stuff, and so I got to talk to Travis. I talked to him for a long time at the convention, but afterwards I probably talked to him for an hour and a half or something like that, and it was a great. Travis is a great guy. I have a lot of respect for Travis. He's been super encouraging and super helpful, and so through him he gave me Greg's Twitter, but I couldn't DM Greg because he didn't follow me. And at the time you couldn't do that. I don't know if you can now. And so I had to put a tweet and tag him and say, hey, can you add me? Because Travis said that I should work with you. And he said, tell Greg that I think you and him should work on something. And so through that, I called Greg about a week after I got back from the con. And Greg, I'll say this, Greg can joke about him being lazy, but he's literally one of the few writers that I've talked to that when I've said, do you have any ideas? He read off, I could tell it was written from a notebook, but he probably read like a dozen or two ideas. And we, out of that, he said, it's called Heaven's Rejects, and it's Charlie's Angels, but they're real angels. And that was all he said about it. And he read some more, and I said, well, go back to that one, and he talked about it. And it just so happened that was one that was pretty close to complete, I think. Maybe it's half written. Mm-hmm. but any writers that are watching this, I would say as an artist, if you want an artist to work with you, and you either if you have or you don't have a track record, prove to them that you're not lazy by giving them a bunch of ideas. I mean, tell them don't be so precious with your ideas that you're not going to tell anybody your ideas, because it's all in the execution really. But if you can show an artist that you've got all these ideas and you give them a choice, then they can pick what they want to work on, And so
the only thing I would add to that is to ask what they like to draw, because the worst thing to do is be like, hey, I got this great dinosaur book. It's like, I don't know how to draw dinosaurs at all.
Right. Right.
I have plenty of stuff so that they're like, well, what else have you got? I know people who will work on things for years and not share it with anybody. And I've got this one idea and this, we already are publishing something like that. What else do you have? And then people get panicked. So figure out how you can, meet people where they're at, so to speak. I actually just had a conversation with another artist yesterday, and he had read the script. Sent him. Man, I'm breaking up our happy home. But he had said, this reminded me of Scud the Disposable Assassin. And I'm like, I love Disposable Assassin. So, like, even just talking about like the stuff that you like, make stuff like you like. I know too many people who are like, hey, I do this stuff and I love this stuff, but I'm doing this other. Like, why not just do the thing that you like?
The stuff you love.
Right.
Put more of that in the world.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that really appealed to me about Heaven's Rejects is because when I heard the idea and I started to talk to Greg, and I think he sent me the first script, and I read it, I really, in my brain, even though it's not, and this is my brain being crazy, but I was like, I could see this being a Marvel Comics book, maybe, like a Bronze Age book or something, and that's kind of, and so that fired me up about it, because that's what I like.
Well, and again, I'm trying to meet you where you are, because this script, since it's not exclusively like Charlie's Angels, but it has that kind of vibe like the television show, late 70s, early 80s,
right.
Bronze Age, which fits Scott's style so well. I mean, it looks like this was a lost Marvel comic from the Bronze Age, and that's what I love about it. And I hope people similarly get fired up, where it's kind of like Batman the Animated Series, where it's not really in a certain year, but have kind of stuff from all over, and you can sort of see the influences. In the second issue, they go to the mall, that kind of thing.
Yeah, what's funny is I think Greg and I had a little bit of disconnect, because when I talked to him on the phone, he says like Charlie's Angels. I immediately thought like 70s Farrah Fawcett, that sort of thing. And then later, and that was my whole approach. And then a little bit later, I was talking to Greg on the phone, and I realized Greg's younger than me. He may be thinking about the movies.
The movies are good too. I haven't seen the most recent one.
Well, and so I told him, and I told Greg kind of this, because my idea was, well, maybe it should be set in the 70s. And I think that kind of, I think there was a little bit of give and take there, because Greg was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And like he said, the second issue's in the mall, and then the third issue, they go to summer camp. They're working it. It's like a spoof of a horror movie at a summer camp,
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Let me get
with chupacabras
in here.
and UFOs.
There's a shell. How you doing? She says tardy to the party, but at least it showed up. Good evening.
Hey, Ashell.
Welcome.
There you go.
Ashell's our resident mermaid.
Right. Tell everyone kind of the behind the scenes story, Scott, of before this went to Source Point Press, or before it got kind of greenlit. You didn't do 8 pages. You didn't do one comic.
No.
You did the whole show. You did the whole show. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, okay. I have to word this carefully because Greg's on here. But
no.
Okay, so no. Greg knows all this. So originally we did Greg. I think it was always planned to be a four issue miniseries, but So originally I thought we would do the first issue and then we would kind of get something and maybe, and at one point we talked, and so what happened is, like, when I first met Travis, SourcePoint, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but SourcePoint was basically selling comics at conventions, and they didn't have a diamond presence at that point.
I think that we had just started, or they had just started doing stuff in Diamond at that point.
I think it was a month after I talked to Greg.
It's possible.
Travis.
Hey,
yeah,
Mom.
I mean, it was.
Hello, Maxine.
It was anyway. So the immediately me being working on this, I saw their announcement that they were in Diamond, and I was like, oh my gosh, this just got bigger. And then so I did the first issue. And there was like, well, we need, I think at one point we were going to do half of it before they start putting it out. But then the company kept getting bigger and bigger. They do more and more now.
That's good.
I mean, talk about getting in on the ground floor or skirting under the wire or whatever. I feel like I was very fortunate to get in with SourcePoint Press when I did, because I don't know if they give me the time of day right now. I mean, no offense to, I mean, it's like, yeah. but
I'll just
they
cross
kept
your name
getting
out
bigger.
Fine.
No. I have a contract. But so I ended up doing 4 issues. And it's funny because then the pandemic happened, and I mean it did seem the pandemic made things a lot worse. And what's funny is at New York Comic Con 19, I think it was, or it must have been 19. I was mostly done with the books, and there was a guy who remained nameless that I met at a Comics Experience Mixer who was like, "You're doing all this work without a contract? Are you?" And he was a lawyer. That was his thing. He's a lawyer for comic book people. And he was literally like,
I followed that dude. I bet.
Yeah, you may. And he's a nice guy. I'm not being critical of him at all, because he's right. But you know, sometimes when you're desperate, you do stuff.
Right. Right.
As far as I know, that's still in place though. Like that they're not putting stuff on the schedule until the project is as close to complete as done, because a couple creative teams, not mine, I hope not, have kind of burned them, of like not having stuff in.
Sure. Think about the early days of Image.
Oh my goodness.
And how they would announce, 26 titles, and like they would, some of them never come out. One would have one issue, and then like the next issue come out 2 years later. I mean, it's,
or like one that came out of order,
I mean, just insanity. I mean, it's just, I totally understand that, but
Wet Works, excuse me.
Wet Works, or what was it? Tribe. They like
Tribe,
they had like 300 characters that they trademarked.
Yeah,
and they came out with like 2 comics. I mean, it's like, come on, guys.
Wasn't that the Larry Stroman project?
Yes, and I mean,
and I was looking forward to that.
Larry Stroman, but what are you going to do? The reason that I bring that up, and I think that it's so important, Scott, is that if you talk to most artists, me included, and you say, "Look, I need 8 pages from you," you're like, "Oh, 8 pages, that's gonna be a slog."
What's the payoff? Yeah, what's the payoff?
You did 4 full comics.
Yes.
Before any of them were published. I and then here it is. It's on the shelves right now. So I think that it speaks to doing the work. Do the work.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I think I was talking before we started. It's like, why do you want to be a comic creator? I think everyone that is interested in making comics, even if just tangentially, they should ask themselves, why do I want to do this? If you tell yourself, I want to be rich as Jim Lee, you might ought to think that.
Or Frank Miller.
Or Frank Miller or Rob Liefeld. If you read Marvel Comics, The Untold Story, most of the guys, and look at comic creators through history beyond the Jack Kirby's, John Burns, George Perez's. Go on Facebook. There are tons of creators that worked in the Bronze Age or late Bronze Age that you've never heard of because they never made it big. Very few people making comics ever make it big and become these household names that live in the lap of luxury or whatever.
Right.
So then you have to ask yourself, well, why would I make a comic, or why do I want to make comics? And then I would say, if you're watching this and you look at me and you go, man, I want to hold my comic in my hand. That's cool, but you have to be in love with the work, really. I mean, not your work, but the act of working. And if you like, people always tell me, oh, I want to draw comics, but I can't get myself to sit at the drawing board. Man, I sit at the drawing board every single night for hours and hours and hours, and I have hours in this thing, but I love it. I mean, it's what I do, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the process. It is a lonely job. Listen to lots of audiobooks.
Well, but I would say when you got to meet the people, right?
Right on the other end of it, sure.
When I'm at a con, I often am like sensory overload. So it's sort of like sensory deprivation and then sensory overload.
Yes. And I mean,
either one or the other of those scenarios scares off a lot of people.
For sure. Creative types
tend
tend to be
a little bit of an introvert, a little bit of an extrovert.
There it is. Yeah. Creative people tend to be introverts because they can, if you can't sit by yourself for hours on end, it's difficult to be creative in that way. So then you put them in front of a convention where there's 200,000 people that are walking past your table, and you're not going to, you're going to have to probably stand up and, talk to these people or sign stuff or, whatever. I mean, you're not going to be able to sit there with your face in your drawing pad during a convention and get anything done. You're going to have to be outgoing. You got to figure it out.
Simon Beasley. You have to turn into Simon Beasley.
Is he crazy?
Is
he energetic?
I'll just say that I took my mom to a convention once, and Simon Beasley was there, and I had to leave those two alone. I had to walk off so that they could talk. So
that's great.
So I was gone for about 20 minutes. I came back, and because she was she was enamored that he was doing a drawing for somebody, and that person wanted the drawing of themselves. So that person was sitting in front of Simon Beasley, and my mom was like standing looking over his shoulder, and he was like, "Can I help him?" She's like, "Oh, I'm an art teacher, and I'm just amazed at your work." And he put the pad down and the pencil down and turned around and was like, "You're an art teacher, huh?"
That's like, cool.
Okay. Simon Beasley is probably one of my favorite artists to just sit and talk to and shoot the ish.
Somehow I thought you were talking about Simon Cowell, and I was like, you got to yell at more people that they don't have talent.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, hey, that happens at cons.
Oh, it does. And it's always hard because I've got steel thick skin at this point when it comes to talking to people, but like you just see somebody just very casually crush another person's soul, not even meaning to, and wow, that was so devastating,
So Michelle says, Walt, your mom's an outstanding artist.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, mom's an artist.
So I have a question. Go ahead, for
Scott.
Greg.
Yeah.
So since we're talking about cons, and I know you have done many over the years, how do you deal with people that come up and maybe they'll flip through your books and they'll just go, not for me or whatever? What do you do?
I flipped the entire table.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And then
I knew it.
No, I don't. I know.
He pulls
like
a JC.
It's like my stuff isn't for everybody, and even within my stuff, there's some stuff that's like, hey, if you like this, you're probably not going to like this other thing. So I don't really take it off personally, and I'm almost always at the Source Point press booth. So I'm like, well, I usually I ask, what do you like, and then I try to point them in the direction of something that that might be up their alley, because I think you got to sort of divorce your own ego from it, because again, like you know, even if like Houston Goes to Hell, for instance, I don't want to read anything that it's about hell or says hell in the title. Like,
okay,
if I know that, then I know, okay, that's not the thing for this person, and I might pitch them something else. But you know, I think that you cannot, if you take it personally, it's only going to hurt you, and you will never sort of engage with the person on their level, on their interests. So I think, you know, I mean, sometimes, you know, I fudge stuff, like people like, oh yeah, I really like superhero stuff, and I'm like, well, Monstrous is kind of like Hellboy or BPRD. Do you like that kind of
right.
There you go.
But it's very rare that somebody will come up and like have interests that are completely different from what we offer at the table. It does happen. There was one guy who he came up and I was like, what kind of stuff do you like? And he's like, I like He-Man. He had a He-Man hat and a He-Man shirt and a He-Man. And he's like, He-Man is what I'm all about. And the people at the booth were like, why didn't you try to sell him some of our books? I'm like, no, that dude just like He-Man. Like, we don't have He-Man here.
Yeah.
Right.
And Heaven's Reject starts with he, Greg.
He-Man character too.
Yeah. Hey, so let me ask you another question in that same vein, because you guys don't know it, but Greg kind of has a reputation for being one of the best salesmen at the Source Point press booth. So
that might be outdated too. I don't know.
No. So let me ask you this question, Greg, because I'm sure anyone that's ever had a table at a con has run into this. When someone's walking by your booth and maybe they don't stop and look, but they're just they're looking, but they don't stop. They just kind of wander by. What do you say? What do you do to engage them at
this
that
is a great
point?
question.
Or try and draw
I have
them
a
in?
fishing pole with a hook, and so I get No, I see. It depends, honestly, on what the venue is. Is it, you know, are we hard up for people? Do we have time to engage with them? Because usually, if somebody's walking by, I look at it this way: it's like a series of micro commitments. You know, eye contact's one, and if I say, "Hey, how's it going?" and they respond, there's another one. It's like, then I say, "Can I tell you about some comics?" and we start talking. And if they say no, you know, you just, okay. Or if they're like, I got to make my rounds, or we just got here, or we'll come back later. All of those are really a no, but they're being polite. I used to make like little jokes and stuff like, oh, you know, well, nothing here is good except the stuff here. And, you know, I'm to the point now where it's just sort of like, okay, if you want to go, that just saves me a little bit of my throat and time. I'll just you go.
That makes sense.
But if somebody looks interested, I want to put a book in their hands, because then again, that's a micro commitment. I'm taking the book into my hands. If I don't want to buy it, I've got to give it back. And most when they have it in their hands, they want to have that possession, sort of that closure on it, and take it home with them. So yeah, I again, like if I were giving advice to anybody doing this kind of thing, like, you know, find a way to sort of engage people without being too creepy. And I think I've gotten better at that as well over time. You know, it used to be like, hi, how's it going? What's your name? Let me tell you about my comics. Now I'm a little dude, but no less caffeinated.
I just give the, you know, sup, you know, and then if that's enough, hey, cool.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to answer sup or not there.
You can. I'm good with it.
let me show everyone something, and then I got a question for both of you. So that's what Scott shared earlier today. There's the Heaven's Rejects comic on the shelf. It's ready to go.
And look what it's sandwiched in between.
That's perfect positioning. Perfect positioning.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I said that on Facebook too. Like, you couldn't find a better spot than being between Harley Quinn and Hellboy.
Hellboy.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's
whoever-
we are right in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever
Yeah,
did
we are
that,
right in that.
kudos to them.
I
Kudos
think
to
it was
them.
the alphabet.
That's a that was
So
perfect.
It was Josh.
Yeah.
So the question
Yeah.
to both of you is, what's it like to have your comic on the shelf? How does that feel?
I'll let you go first, Scott.
Oh, wow. It's. I'll be honest. It's a little intimidating. It's very gratifying. You know, I mean, you know, and again, earlier I kind of made a joke about, you know, I don't want to say I could die now and I'd be happy or whatever, because that's obviously not the case. But I am.
Let me interrupt you just for a second, just to say I'm fully prepared for death. I'm ready.
Wow, they can take you now.
Yeah.
That's what. I also am prepared for that. Anyway, it's very gratifying. I mean, it's cool because when you think about it, you know, a lot of people have put their faith and their trust and their money in us. You know, you talk about me putting my all this work in it. Well, I'm putting my work in myself, so that's, you know, of course that's what you're supposed to do. But you know, for Greg to put his faith in me as an artist, and for the fine folks at SourcePoint Press to put their faith in us and our project is very gratifying. It's very humbling, really, to be honest. You know, and it's really cool. I used to want to work. I used to want to draw like for Marvel Comics. I grew up reading Marvel Comics. I used to think, oh man, Marvel Comics is the pinnacle. Until I started realizing, like we talked about earlier, how it's not all it's cracked up to be sometimes. And so it is. So I don't necessarily have that as like a goal now, or oh my gosh, I got to draw Spider-Man, or I'm not going to, you know, my life will not be complete. But it's cool to have a book out. This is what I've been working for. This is what I want. You know, there's 3 more coming out in this series. I hope it sells well enough we get to do more, for sure, you know.
Yeah. Greg, what do you think? I mean, this is not your first time, but I mean, it's got to be fun to have it out there.
It you know, I like it, but at the same time, I can very much echo what Scott is saying. It's like, it's kind of intimidating. Like,
Sure.
I think comic shops, like even the friendliest ones, even ones I've been working with for years, it can still be kind of intimidating because it's sort of like that imposter syndrome you get from, I don't know, like the record store or a bookstore where they're like, oh, you're reading that.
Right.
Has had anybody feel it? I'm always worried they will be.
Yeah.
Right.
It's also really weird to see your comic up there and then, wait a minute, like Heaven's Rejects #1 is competing with Batman and Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of awful. It's really, really scary. You know, if somebody's going in there with $4, you know, they can get my book, or they can get these characters that have been around for 80 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's tough to think about the fact that it's like, you know, I'm not in the same weight class as them, but I'm still competing for the same dollars in some way.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
For sure.
Hey, but you know what
have
else? Those guys aren't on the show talking
Yep.
about it like
That's
we
right.
are. So, you know, they're not
Yeah.
talking about their stuff. They don't have to talk about their stuff, but we're talking about your stuff. And you know, that to me, I mean, you guys were talking about how on your shelf, I was like, man, I don't even have anything on the shelf, and the hairs on my arm are standing up. Why? You know, so
Yeah, it's cool.
I
It's
just
fun
think
to
it's cool.
live this moment through you two. Have you
It's
had
very, very cool, especially like Scott is
It
saying,
is cool.
and where it's like, this is a physical thing that
Yeah.
you know, I can look at. And it's like
Yes.
point in a video game, like at the very least, they can't take this part away, you know.
Right.
right?
Yep.
That effort,
Exactly.
logged it and
Yeah.
clocked it in here. So yeah.
Knowing Dirk wouldn't want to look at it on the shelf because he had so much fun doing it. He wouldn't want to look at it, you know, like he does in TV shows.
I have a very strange thing where I won't watch the end of a series because I enjoy it too much.
You were talking about that last week.
Yeah, that's what Walt's talking
Always,
about.
Yeah.
like all of them.
And usually I find my way back around to it. But like, okay, let me give you the worst example. I enjoyed Stranger Things so much that I never watched the final episode of the first season, and so I haven't watched the subsequent seasons either.
I'll be honest. I stopped
I'll
after
watch
the
it
first season
sometime.
myself. I was like, I
Okay.
really like this. If I watch it more, I'll watch this.
That's kind of part of it too. It's like it will be over, and I'm worried about being disappointed. I guess I don't know.
That's
If I love
me
it too
with
much.
Star Wars. The first Star Wars. I don't want to see. That's all I need is the one movie. I'm good.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think comics and television do middles really good. They do cliffhangers good, but
Yeah.
very rarely do you see a comic series where like that ending
They land it.
than the rest.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true for movies, TV shows, everything.
On my On Blast today, I'm going to talk about Ad Astra, and that is an excellent example of a movie that promised something that it did not deliver.
Mm.
Oh no.
To both of you, have you heard any? I mean, I know it's really not out until tomorrow, but have you had any reactions from anyone about the comic? Have you heard back from anyone?
I haven't heard too much. We didn't put
No.
a whole lot of like advance review copies and things like that. I know that the publisher did, but I'm not necessarily involved in those conversations. So it may be, that reviews will crop up, which reviews are also a weird thing where it's like, hey, it's really cool that like I'm worth you talking about.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of funny because, again, it's like, well, I'm competing with Batman. Like, how am I gotta, do that sort of thing? So, yeah, I think for the most part, it's go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I recently figured out how to do the is it Google alerts for your name, and when your name crops up, I figured out how to do a Google alert for my name, and I haven't.
Good idea for everyone.
All I've gotten so far have been a few just like blurbs where it's like it's coming out but no reviews, and I'm a little terrified about it because Greg can say all he wants that he's competing with Batman, but I think as a writer it's easier to compete with Batman than as an artist, and I'm terrified I'm going to read a review that says this book is great. Why did this artist get the draw?
I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
But it's one of those things too that like you can't take it personally because again, not everything is for everybody. But I mean, I doubt you're going to get this, but this is kind of a worst scenario. I actually have a review of it was it doesn't matter which book it is. Never mind. All right, but the reviewer actually said, "I pity Greg Wright," and it's like, wow, that's like. I mean, I've gotten a lot of people's hate over the years, but to get their pity,
Pity.
Ouch.
Yeah. I can laugh about it now, but I'm like, and I even laughed about it on the day of, but it was still like, yikes,
Ooh, that kind of crosses a line in my opinion.
Like it, right? I mean, like Greg Wright and his writing suck. His mom probably sucks too, or.
No, not your.
I hope
your
I
mom.
hope she doesn't hear me or see this.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about this, but how are sales?
Good. I mean, the thing is, the comic book community loves the #1 issue, and we've been really trying to push it. And Dirk, you did a fantastic pinup. I'm trying to do this with showing, like, here's some other artists' take on this, because, like, I feel like people really respond to variant covers, but I think that what they're responding to is like, oh, look, here's new art on social media that reminds me I should get this thing. So, like, we only had the one additional cover, but we've had a lot of pinups for things, and I think that that's sort of bringing more people, welcoming them into the fold. The hard part about any comic, from my experience, is that, like, anything beyond 1, it's like sales are going to trail off because nobody's going to buy issue 4 without 1, 2, and 3 first.
Right.
And people are going to get off the train. So that too is one of those things that it's a numbers game that you can't take personally. But the best thing you can do, if you go out there and you buy Heaven's Rejects #1, please pre-order the whole series.
Subscribe.
It makes it,
put it on your list or whatever.
Yeah, put it on your pull list or pre-order it or Make sure.
So important.
Coming.
You have to realize that. I mean, I was manager of a comic store. I know how this stuff goes. It may be difficult to get issue 4 if you don't start telling people right now that you want it.
Right.
They are probably, I'm about to say they're probably ordering issue 4 right now, or maybe it's already too late. I don't, they may already.
It's not too late. People can still order it. The final order cutoff is not here yet. I don't think even for the second issue. So people who go up to the very last minute, I think, still have the opportunity to get 2, 3, and 4. All of and again, if your comic shop doesn't have Heaven's Rejects #1, you could still get that order.
You can still get it. They print extra. It's so important though to tell people, especially when you're talking about your comic book store. The people who are ordering these comics have to do it largely in advance. They know how many.
It's like
every
3 or 4 months
issue
in
of
advance.
Batman, they know exactly how many they're going to sell, unless they've got some big crossover event or something. And so, 3 or 4 months in advance, they've got to make a decision on these things. And so, you giving that information, go to your local comic book shop, ask for Heaven's Rejects, and tell them that you want all 4 issues of it. It makes a huge, huge difference for those comic book shop owners who, they won't know otherwise.
Every week they're trying to guess what their store is going to sell.
Exactly.
And it's very seat of the pants. So if you can say, hey, I'm a sure thing, I want these comics, they like to know that, and they don't want to try to guess what you're going to like.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. This is
and that goes.
And
I was going to say
that you like Scott Sackett's art already.
Well, and this goes back to that idea that part of this, I feel this weight of all these people. Every shop that ordered them trust us, and they trust that we're gonna catch an audience somehow of some sort, and I think we will. It's just it's a lot of competition out there.
I'm not going to do like a formal review or anything right now, but I've read the issue, and I want to tell people that it's wild. It is kind of, it has that kind of, Charlie's Angels vibe to it and stuff, but it's also, like craziness. There's a lot of chaos. I mean, every page has some action.
Something crazy happening. Yeah.
It's not people sitting around in an office talking. It's one page after another of guns and humor and craziness and demons and monsters, and then changing the setting and resetting and doing some other stuff. Big monsters, small monsters, sexy demons.
We all like sexy demons.
A twist and turn here and there. It's fun. It's really truly a fun comic. I mean, people who just want to read a fun comic that's different and has a lot of energy to it and a lot of stuff going on, this is it. If you like horror, if you like comedy, if you get the old Charlie's Angels type stuff, it definitely has that kind of feel to it. This is the main thing I can say is this is just a fun comic, folks. I really want to stress that, and take a shot on it. It will entertain you. I promise you that you will be entertained.
Also, I'm going to add to that my father's review. He read it and he said, "There's a lot of swears."
Okay, so I have a story to tell about that. I have a story because
no,
I have a story, and I Greg and I have talked about this, but so I got the first script and I read it. And I thought, man, there's a lot of profanity in here, and so so early on I said something to Greg and I go, there's a lot of profanity, and Greg said, "Trust me, it fits in what I'm going for." And I didn't get it, and this happened years after, but I didn't get it until I saw Suicide Squad by James Gunn, or The Suicide Squad, I guess it is. And and then after that I saw Peacemaker, and I thought, oh, okay, and I think I even apologized to Greg, or I think I texted him and said, "Oh, I just saw the Suicide Squad. I get it now." And
right.
So now I kind of
and that tells you how much faith he has in me, that it was so long before he's like, "What are you going for here?"
Well, I was But I think it works great because I wasn't trying to draw it like that. I was trying to draw a Marvel comic,
Right.
and so I think it works great because if I had known that, I might have tried to lean into that, and it wouldn't have. I don't think it would have been as good. You
I
know,
think
and
I think that your comparison with Suicide Squad or the writing of James Gunn, who is an amazing, writer and director, who was brought up on kind of the super cheap horror type film stuff that he wrote, the trauma stuff or whatever.
Trauma stuff, yeah.
You can definitely, that is a very, if you're interested in that sort of stuff, you will be interested in Heaven's Rejects.
It's got kind of a Deadpool vibe.
The tone is definitely
Harley
right
Quinn
there.
stuff.
Adult craziness, funny, and not really try to predict what's going to happen on the next page, folks. I promise you, you're not gonna know where it's going.
We can spoil some stuff, like you had said about like the second one. They go to the mall, they go to a food court, and they have a gangland fight there. And the third one, they are camp counselors, evoking everything from Friday the 13th to like meatballs. And in the fourth one, you didn't mention this one, but in the fourth one, there's a cross-country road race kind of thing.
Cannonball Run.
All right, I like that.
It's like Cannonball Run.
Cannonball Rally, that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
It's tapping into a lot of that cheesiness that you don't need to get those references to have it be a wild ride.
No. But I would say that a lot of our crowd that watches this probably knows everything that you just mentioned. So,
good.
Believe it or not, a lot of that stuff has been tapped upon in modern stuff today. Like the Cannonball Run was in the Teen Titans cartoon. They had an episode that was like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Teen Titans.
Yeah, Teen Titans did a Cannonball Run type episode, as well as I think Batman, Brave and the Bold.
Wow, I really feel like the Fast and Furious movies are kind of the evolution of Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh yeah,
the Cannonball Run movies. It's kind of them doing the same sort of thing in a different way, in a modern way, I guess.
Maybe if Burt Reynolds had some steroids that made him lose all his hair, he'd look like The Rock or Vin Diesel or something.
Right. And if he always talked about how it's about family.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Now that you mention that, how cool would it have been in one of those earlier movies? Since we're on a tangent, it's normal. Our normal tangent. How cool would it have been if he had showed up as the Bandit in one of those movies as a cameo?
That would be pretty cool.
That would have been cool.
I'd fanboy out for that.
Oh, absolutely. They should have done that. That would have been a great idea. So look, let me invite both of you to give our audience the best elevator pitch you have and tell them what they can do best to help you out to get the next few issues out.
Okay. Do you want me to do that?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go
So
ahead, Greg.
you've already given some of the pitch that I've sort of put together in my head. And again, I'll be better at this if I do this for a day at a con, and I haven't had copies to do this with. But yeah, Heaven's Rejects is basically like, what if Charlie's Angels were real angels? So 3 rebellious, foul-mouthed angels get kicked out of heaven, and they have to do freelance, do-gooder work on Earth and wind up working for one of their enemies in order to take out evil and pay the bills. But eventually things wind up coming to a head. And also just for fun, there's hellworms, as Scott was saying, the evil lizard pope, and cybernetic sharks. There's all kinds of crazy stuff if you're not into the whole like angels thing.
Right. It's got a little something for everyone. And what should they, obviously they need to go to their comic book store tomorrow and buy the heck out of issue 1.
Yeah.
And get on the subscription list. It's very important for 2, 3, and 4. It's a 4-issue limited series. So get to your comic book store and sign up so that people know to order the next few issues. And, even if they like sell out of one, most comic shops can get that first issue to make sure that you get the full series.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also stay tuned for the collection after that. So like don't sleep on that either, because a lot of times there's people who wait for the trade and don't get the singles, or people who get the single issues and then they're like, oh, I don't really want the collected edition. But yeah, please stay tuned for that, because like I said, there's going to be a lot of really cool content, including Dirk's pinup for Heaven's Rejects.
Cool.
There's going to be a lot of really cool stuff in the trade.
I love trade paperbacks because of that, because of the extra pinups and like the character sketches and the people talking about the, the process of putting the thing together. I love getting it that way, just like I like getting a Blu-ray that has, director commentary on it or something.
Yeah, I like getting the trades too, because I put them on my bookshelf and people will go over and look at my bookshelf and they'll pull them out and they'll read them, and it'll be people who don't normally read comics.
Right.
So
that's true.
That's one of the main reasons I like trades.
You can look smart and you can look cool, and people will say like, wait a minute, Heaven's Rejects, I can tell I'm a comparative religious studies major. This is
this is right up my alley.
So accurate. So historically accurate.
Right.
What's next for the two of you? What's your projects that you got going on? Greg's got 14 more comics coming out next week.
So tomorrow, if you're in Oklahoma City, I'm going to do a quick signing at 4:00 on New World Comics at North Meridian and 63rd. Buck ordered a stack of comics, so
that's a good store.
I'm going to be there. Yep, it's a good store. Buck is a friend of mine. He's been very supportive of me over the years. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to set up something a little more formal on a weekend in a couple weeks, where I can sign the issues. So that's next on my plate.
Before we move on from New World, let me do another plug for them. They do something that most comic shops that I've been to don't do. They have an end cap that says, here's local comics. And they will put, all the people who are doing local comics on that end cap. And they have like a section on the shelf as well, where they will feature local creators. And I think that's wonderful. I wish that more comic shops tried to connect with their local community, because I'm sure wherever you're at, there's some people who are making comics, and they reach out to the community and buy their stuff and put it on that shelf. I think that's an awesome thing. So good for New World.
I'm also doing a signing tomorrow. I'm going to Coy's Comics in Saginaw, Michigan on Bay Road, which is run by Brandy and Steve, and Steve Shar is an artist that, actually I've worked with both of them on their art, or they have created art for projects that I've done. And I have some Heaven's Rejects totes that my sister made, tote bag.
Oh, hey,
Heaven's Rejects shot glasses.
Oh, that could be a perennial seller right there.
Yeah. And my sister is Sarah Wright. And she has an Etsy store where you can get Heaven's Rejects shirts and hats and, other totes and postcards and all kinds of really cool stuff. So
how do you find that?
I will get you. Can I send you the link?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I will do that.
Yeah.
Just get it here.
Good stuff. Besides like signing stuff, what projects do you two have coming up here soon?
I am idle, Greg.
Right, don't look at me. I'm trying to just get this Etsy thing here.
No, we've talked about if the book does well, obviously, and everything depends on people buying it. If you buy it in bulk, then there'll be more. For sure.
Buy one issue to read and one to put in the bag.
Yeah, I have this whole marketing plan that I told Greg about. And so what it is tomorrow the book comes out, and then the second wave of promotion is we get it banned, and then we get people to burn them, and that's the third wave is when
This
it's
is
actually
solid.
burned. And then
This
what
is
we do,
solid.
the fourth wave is the counter protest buying. And then the fifth wave is the nostalgia wave when it comes back because it's set in the 70s/80s when it's featured in a TV show, kind of like how Dungeons and Dragons took off after Stranger Things. That's
Right.
my plan.
Wow.
Hey,
That's our
don't
marketing plan.
don't forget to
This is
do like
super complex.
don't forget to
That is
do like
multi-layered.
don't forget to protest your own book.
Oh, I will definitely
Be
protest my
banned.
own
I
book.
think people should buy copies and set them on fire.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
I
Lots of
often remind
copies.
people of that when it comes to comics. You know, you just have to buy them. You don't have to read them. I don't care what you
Right.
do. This is
Just buy 'em.
Etsy store, and it has Heaven's Rejects gear that people can grab, as well as some other stuff like that's where I got the Monstrous hat, and some other comic book stuff. So check that out.
Sassy style librarian at Etsy.
She's a literal librarian. I don't know how stylish she is. I'm not going to, but
You're
that's
calling
my-
into question the style. She might be
Yeah, the
sassy.
style of the
She
hats.
might be a
and shirts.
librarian.
She's
But
my
the style.
pick on her. So-
Yeah, that's good.
I have, like I said, I got more stuff coming from Monstrous. People can pre-order Wild Bullets as well.
I'm
And
definitely checking out Monstrous. That sounds right up my alley.
it's a lot of fun. It's coming from my love of Universal Studios monsters and Hammer Studios monster movies and things like that. So a lot of that gothic stuff, but with kind of a steampunk twist to it.
Cool.
Yaga's in there, so
Yeah.
it's
Cool.
a lot of fun.
Scott, you are working on a short story, aren't you, for an anthology?
I did a 10-page story for an anthology of public domain characters. I did a Phantom Lady and a Daredevils. I mean, it's one story, but it's got both of them in it. And I did that over the summer. And I'm not sure that was one of those deals where it's like the financing. They're like, well, we think we're going to do a Kickstarter. We're not sure. And so I drew it because that's what you do is you draw stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And-
that when you're
and-
on talk shows, you have something to tell them about what you're doing.
Exactly. Well, and Greg has pitched a somebody's putting out a Fletcher Hanks anthology, and Greg has talked to me about drawing his pitch. I don't know where that's at. I don't know if that's
I
a
haven't
thing
heard back
even.
from them. They were overwhelmed with submissions, so you know.
Yeah, that's funny.
Have somebody cooler than me. I don't know.
They put that on Twitter, and apparently the idea of working on like the worst comic strip ever appealed to a lot of people. Yeah.
Fletcher Hanks is near and dear to my heart. There's so many creators where like I think of like, I don't know, Anvil, the story of Anvil, or like American Movie. I like stories about creators where it's like you probably should give up, you know, but you don't. What Fletcher Hanks embodies to me is like, wow, these are really terrible, but there's something about them that's so electrifying too, you know.
Plan 9 from outer space feel.
Yeah, it's crazy, weird stuff. Yeah, I think it was a Stardust one specifically.
Oh yeah.
Greg,
I love that Anvil documentary though too, Greg. I've seen that. That's great.
Yeah.
before we go to the next section, Greg, tell everyone where they can find you.
I'm just at home.
Just come by home. Just I'll be
Can
here.
we have the address?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me tell you. No.
Like to dox yourself on
You
a live
can find
broadcast.
me on Facebook. It's just my regular name, Greg Wright. You can search for that, and I usually come up. But I believe it's Greg Wright Author at Facebook, and then for Twitter, you could go to Greg Henchman or Greg Wright Books. Both of those are me. I actually got my account suspended today.
Nice.
I'll tell that story if you want, but
On
and I also got TikTok and an Instagram I don't really use.
I must hear that story. I'm more interested in that than anything.
What did you say?
What did I say? What did I say? So
What
I
did you
actually
show?
posted it on my other Twitter account because I have two of them. And I thought this was so funny. I'm not trying to get political or anything, but it was a tweet from Tom Fitton, who runs Judicial Watch, and he takes himself very seriously. And I'm not even going to get into what his politics are or whatever, but there's an image of him where he's saying Judicial Watch update, and he's railing on about like legal stuff with Donald Trump and everything. And he's wearing a really tight shirt. So I tweeted out to him in response. I said, I can see your nipple in that photo. And and Twitter informed me that violates their rules about abuse and harassment.
Wow.
So,
that is very touchy.
Oh,
but the best part is that I can't show. I don't know how to share my screen or whatever. But then he retweeted an image of him. And I can't think of who would report me other than him. Maybe somebody else did. But after I got reported, he posted an old video from July 20th, and the whole time he's got his arms folded, so you can't see his And I was like, this is the best way to get kicked off of Twitter ever. I was
man. Somebody had.
I'm not trying to be political about it. I was just like, oh, this guy is kind of full of himself, and here he is. And all I did was, I can see your nipple in that photo. Facts, straight up facts, and I got suspended.
And I mean, you got suspended for that. That is absurd.
That's petty.
It is a little bit. It is a little bit. And again, I'm not trying to get into weird politics or sentiments, but it's sort of like, if you dress like that, you might be asking for it. So.
You cannot say nipple on Twitter.
I'm glad. So, now you can say that you're Twitter banned. I mean, that might get you some gravitas.
Yeah. Some street
in certain circles. People be like, wow,
oh, that in and of itself should get sales right there.
I hope so. I hope so. Like, here's the smart ass that got suspended.
Twitter banned author
about another man's
Greg
nipples.
Wright.
Yeah, Twitter banned author Greg Wright, and then somebody says, "What did he get banned for?"
Plan, Scott. Step one.
What did he get banned for?
That's step one.
Yeah.
You're a little ahead of the curve, but step one.
Yeah.
And just be vague. He said something about somebody, and they didn't.
Yeah, you don't have to explain it.
It hurt their feelings.
It's all good.
Although I feel like the illustrations of like seeing him go from very, very nipple confident to very nipple shamed is one of the visuals that I think really helps the story.
It's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, we're gonna have to use. I'm gonna use that to promote you guys now.
Heaven's Rejects by Twitter Reject Greg Wright.
Yeah.
Exactly.
By Twitter Reject Greg Wright.
How we gotta get you kicked off, Scott?
I'm not on
it's
that.
It's going to be tougher with him.
Yeah,
I promise you.
All you have to do is to say he's the artist for that guy.
So, like by association.
So he's guilty by association.
I think Greg Wright started some kind of cult.
I'll retweet Greg. If I retweet Greg, I think it'll do it.
There you go. There you go. Get me in trouble, right?
All right, we're moving on to our next section. Here it comes.
I just need a what is it? Some lights,
Yeah.
Brian James said, "Oh, where did that go? Mr. Hooper, you and Walt have ascended to some type of ethereal plane of excellence previously not known to mortals." So there you go. How about that?
Thank you very much, Brian.
Stick that in your pipe.
Is that because you guys are above us? Is that how?
I don't know. I don't know.
Now who's starting a cult?
About.
Hey, Brian is our cult leader when it comes to that.
For sure. He's our minion on that topic.
I'm getting a weirdly specific thirst for Kool-Aid right now.
I hear that it wasn't actually
It was
Kool-Aid.
Flavor
It was
Aid.
right.
Flavor
Yes,
Yeah.
Boy, Kool-Aid really got the job on that, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Forever known for doing that.
Yeah.
So look, recently, we took the summer off basically, and Warner Brothers, there's so much stuff that happened with Warner Brothers, and I'm just gonna throw out some things and we can talk a little bit about kind of how we feel about what's happening with Warner Brothers in general, and specifically where you think they're going with the DCEU, the all of the DC films and stuff that they have coming up. So just as kind of a bullet point, about 2 months ago they had the Batgirl cancellation. Also, they canceled the Batman Caped Crusader animated series more recently. They also canceled 5 other animated movies, including works with Looney Tunes, The World of Gumball, and another Batman flick. They also canceled Scoob Holiday Hunt. There's a animated series called Aquaman King of Atlantis that they ditched. Another show called Close Enough by regular show producer J.G. Quintel. Final Space by Olin Rogers, which was in its 3rd season or something. I don't know if anyone's watching that.
Yeah.
That's canceled. Moonshot, which is a sci-fi rom-com. And kind of to get a feeling from the new guy who is running Discovery / Warner Brothers. I think they're calling it WBD or something. I'm not sure exactly how they put that together.
That sounds like a disease.
It does. I got
It does.
WBD, and it's
Yeah.
really bad.
Yeah, I'm canceling stuff left and right.
Yeah.
The guy who's running it is the new guy who's running it. His name is David Zaslav, and he says, "quote We have done a reset. We've structured the business. There will be a team. This is for the DCEU. There will be a team with a 10-year plan focusing just on DC. It's very similar to the structure that Alan Horn and Bob Iger put together very effectively with Kevin Feige at Disney. We think we could build a long-term, much more sustainable growth business out of DC. And as part of that, we're going to focus on quality. We're not going to release any film before it's ready. The focus is going to be how do we make each of these films in general as good as possible. DC is something we can make better, and we're focused on it now. We have some great DC films coming up, including Black Adam, Shazam, and Flash. We're working on all of those. We've seen them, and we think they're terrific, and that we can make them even better. That's what Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi, Warner Brothers' new motion picture heads, are doing. So just as a question to the panel, what do you think about what they've ditched so far, and do you think they can make some real changes and do some bring their stuff up to maybe the MCU, for example? And anyone can take that.
I can't believe that. Well, there's hope for some of those things that got canned. So
yes, Batman Caped Crusader has been brought up on what was it, Hulu? I think maybe Hulu was
maybe
in that.
maybe Hulu or maybe even Netflix, but yeah, there, because that's one of the things that people have been really anticipating to watch, specifically me, because I don't think Bruce Timm should have quit as soon as he did, because for one, we never got a Wonder Woman series.
Hello, Aaron.
And I really wanted to see a Wonder Woman series under Bruce Timm, but we never got that. But I mean, like I said, that one to me was the most bewildering.
That's
shows to get
for
canceled.
people who don't know, that's supposed to be kind of a sequel series to Batman the Animated Series, which is one of the most beloved series of all time.
Yeah.
And for them to just kind of eject it before it ever gets out of the gate is kind of strange.
And it was supposed to be a more like almost PG or R-rated version too. So it was supposed to be more adult. than the original series.
That sounds cool.
To me, I guess my knee-jerk reaction to this, like for each piece of this news that we keep getting,
Yeah.
I guess what I think about a lot is I don't like when there's a structure that it's more profitable to not share a creative project than it is to share it.
Yeah.
So something like Batgirl, which was done like
Yeah.
them, nope, nobody gets to see it. I feel like that's just sort of pretzel logic that doesn't, I really don't like that. I don't like people putting in effort that nobody gets to share and benefit from. Again, it's not, and it doesn't matter that it's Batgirl or how done it is. I don't care about like Gumball, for instance, but I hate that it's like you got a whole small city of people working on this
Sure.
that don't get to, their work has no value anymore. And
Right.
it's kind of like the producers. Mel Brooks is the producers, where it's sort of like, oh yeah, we want this to be a bomb so we can write it off as a loss.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's just so antithetical to what any kind of creative business should be doing, that like it's hard for me to want to see the stuff that survived, because I'm like, how do I know that this is better than the stuff that you won't even let me see?
Right.
So true.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I mean,
So
Hollywood executives are well known for not having a clue as to what they have. I mean,
what people want necessarily even.
Exactly. Go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to ask Greg. Greg, have you seen the documentary Doomed about the
No, I have
Fantastic
not.
Four movie? It's on and off of Prime occasionally, but man, if you want to see an example of a movie that was never intended to be seen, and it was just made to hold the Fantastic Four copyright.
Oh, this
and
is
the
the
only
Corman
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
the Corman movie, and the only reason that Corman got it is because he promised he could make it for like $1 million or something like that.
Right.
It's a documentary about the making of that movie.
Oh,
and
I
it
got to
is
see that. That sounds
heartbreaking.
great.
Oh, it is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But
I've seen it.
But I think that's a different situation than this
Mhm.
particular situation, because that was intended. That was more like what you're talking about, Greg, where it's like, it'll be a
Rigging
bomb,
it.
so we'll take the tax loss.
Mhm.
That's exactly what
the-
they're doing here.
Well,
They've said as much.
maybe. Well, they have said that, but also, I mean, just because the movie is done doesn't mean that it'll make money. I mean, you can't say. I mean, you can't say if we put it out, we're going to recover our. Even if they don't recover it, there's still a lot of costs that go into putting a movie out. If you shelve it before you do all the marketing, generally the marketing costs are about the same price as the production cost.
Mhm.
And so if they've got $100 million or 70 million or whatever it was, they might spend that again just getting the movie put out and distributed and that sort of thing. And also, if you're looking to rebuild because let's face it, what DC has done, they've had some good movies and they've had some bad movies, but they certainly haven't followed the blueprint of what Marvel did. In other words, they haven't built up a universe. They haven't had success upon success that builds upon success. If you want to do that, maybe you don't. Maybe we haven't seen Batgirl. Was it Batgirl or Batwoman? Batgirl.
Hey, girl.
Batgirl. We haven't seen Batgirl, so maybe in the eyes of this guy, it would damage what they were planning.
Right.
I know everyone has lamented that these creators' work will never be seen. They got paid. They were in the movie. They got credit, or worked on the movie. They got credit for it. Not trying to be harsh, but if the movie sucked, it might be better if nobody does get to see it for their careers.
Along those lines, I am hoping that The Flash is the best movie that they have ever made, because I don't understand why it didn't get canceled instead of other things, because Ezra Miller has news doing crazy stuff.
Yes.
That have people tearing their hair out. And sure, I want to see The Flash, but to me, it's like, I really don't like this person who's clearly going
Right.
health issues, derailing an entire franchise. Again, it's like you're talking about a small country that worked on this movie.
Right.
I mean, I was
Yeah.
talking like shows which have like a whole city working on them, but movies, it's an entire country's worth of people. And I hate that with various aspects of our culture, you know, we want to focus on like what the one star did instead of like, look, you know, that had nothing to do with the key grip, you know, or
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
Right.
anything like that. It's like
Well,
people not get paid because you don't like what the one person said or did or whatever. Not to write off anything that anybody's done.
well, but I think if you look at the history of Hollywood, he is not the first star that has behaved badly and caused problems. I don't know if it's something that they should have addressed in the past, maybe with previous productions with him involved, or if it's maybe where maybe Warner Brothers needs a fixer that can go out and address all this stuff. That's what
Right.
they did in the old days. There were
Yeah.
guys that took care of this stuff, you know, and kind of made it go away. Again, I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying that they should have wrapped their hands around this problem a long time
Long
ago.
time ago, exactly.
COVID
And they,
didn't do Ezra Miller any favors because the last 2 years he has imploded.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
whatever was going on during that period of time, he had too much free time on his hands. There's no
Oh,
question about it.
And
Well, it
and-
happens when you move really fast, Dirk. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And getting back to DC's 10-year plan, you know, and I've mentioned this before, it was originally their plan. Marvel's plan was originally Warner Brothers DC. And we're talking like way back in like 98, 99, someone pitched them about doing when the whole Batman Superman comic book was popular. And they were like, that would be a great way to kick off a new, you know, we could do a series of movies that just expand to you know, interlocking. We can introduce everything and then have it end with the Justice League. And somebody and their smart, very well-educated brain said, that's a stupid idea. And it didn't happen.
Well,
So,
I know that a lot of people online like get strong opinions about like Zack Snyder, or you know, they love him or they hate him or whatever. But I think even if you just put like that whole dialogue on hold, they've had Oscar-winning movies.
yeah.
You know, The Joker,
Yeah.
and The Dark Knight. You know, like you've got these movies that are very successful with critics and audiences alike. And I don't really mind that they're, you know, if they do something different or if they want to do something similar. I mean, I think we can't have everything as precious as the MCU, you know, where it's like,
Right.
to being a fan of comic book movies in the 90s, they almost never had the same actors playing the characters. And there was no continuity. And it's the same thing with comics. Like,
Right.
you find continuity that lasts longer than about a year or two.
Right.
And I don't know. It seems like people getting weirdly fussy. Like I loved Birds of Prey. I loved Joker. I loved Shazam. And I loved them because they were doing things that were different from other movies. I don't want everything to be exactly like the MCU,
Right.
especially with the TV shows where, you know, people they're seeing the strings. They're like, oh, I recognize this structure and pattern because I've been watching so much of this. And it's like, I don't want them to become oversaturated. And then there's a backlash where everybody's like, oh, we hate everything superheroes.
What's funny, you mentioned the TV shows specifically with the Marvel TV shows have been pretty much different as far as tone and everything. And I'm enjoying it because they don't have that movie model, you know, because, you know, the movies have that, you know, that same beat. But these TV shows don't have that same beat.
Different genres.
They're different genres.
And aimed at different targets. And now the people who have been complaining about the Marvel movies are like, well, these TV shows don't feel like the Marvel movies. Right.
And it's like, well, you can't please them all. And DC needs to take back their original idea, basically, from Marvel. And instead of doing their movies like how Marvel has all their movies, everything, you know, the same beats and all the movies, just say, you know, Batman is a dark character. Let's go all out and make sure that Batman is Batman. You know, he's our Dark Knight. Everything is dark and gloomy. We have Superman. Superman is our ray of hope, you know, our light of hope. His movies need to be bright and spectacular. You know, we have Shazam. Shazam is a kid in a grown man's body. It's got to be funny, you know, and, you know, there's just play off of those different attitudes and just do that. I mean, because it could be great. It could be great.
Greg, you asked about the Flash. Why the Flash? Why haven't they trashed that? There's two reasons. The first reason is they just had a test screening of it, and it had the highest ratings of any DCEU movie that's been made.
I've heard that people are really responding. Like, it's very good.
So apparently people are liking it. But the biggest reason is, and the reason why they should have had this out, look, Flash was one of the first movies they were talking about. But back when they released Batman Superman, they were talking about the Flash. The Flash was teed up. And I mean, in Batman Superman, the Flash pops in there for a second to tell him about all this stuff that's happening. They were setting up the Flash a long time ago. Yeah. And for some reason, they just kept sitting on it and sitting on it and sitting on it. And then COVID happened, and it put them another 2 or 3 years behind. I mean, they've had this film kind of ready to go for a long time. And, you know, no one could have predicted that Ezra Miller was going to go crackers on everyone.
Right.
But the main reason why they want to get this Flash movie out is because it's their multiverse movie. It's the movie that absolutely makes everything canon. So they can have 4 Supermans show up at the same time. They can justify having the Joker movie with what's his name? I can't remember his name.
Joaquin Phoenix. And have, you know, other Jokers, you know, that they are going to be introducing down the road. It's the reset button.
It's their reset button. It's their way of saying, from this point forward, everything we do is canon, and therefore, you know, you don't have to beat us over the head with, you know, all of the sins of our fathers, all the mistakes that we've made, you know, prior to this.
Because
this is just a rumor that I heard, but I also heard that it's cheaper for them to use Flash animation. Like I said, you can mute me.
But I'm
bummed. Just shut the microphone, camera. Just mute me out.
I think
I will say. Oh, well, I will say this: I'm not a big DC guy, but I've read my understanding from what I've seen of the movie and what I've heard. It's based off the Flashpoint miniseries, and that's I have that. I've read that, and it's a great series, and they've even done an animated version of it that's really good.
Really good.
So, you know, the source material is solid. You know,
well, and
I
that
don't know
was
what
Jeff
they'll
Johns
do with
riffing
it.
on the Flash of Two Worlds from Gardner Fox all the way back in the Silver.
Right.
You know, they sat on, the thing that kills me is they sat on this thing so long that they let the MCU scoop them on this too. You know, all of this stuff that we're getting now with the multiverse, and, you know, what you got in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and what happened
in
in
Spider-Man
movie.
too.
You know, all of those things, you know, if they just gotten that Flash movie out earlier, they would have beat everyone to the punch. But now they look like they're derivative of that, and that's actually not the case. But it's their own damn fault.
Well, and let's not forget that Ezra Miller's Flash showed up in the CW Flash in their
which was Flashpoint.
No, it was Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Crisis, right?
Oh,
so so there's one where he pops in, and he's looking at, you know, what's his name, Grant Gustin's outfit. And he's like, I like your outfit, you know. So, and I think by the end of Flashpoint, he takes I think in the movie he's going to take a costume more like that, and I think that's where he gets his inspiration for his not so much armored.
I've heard that it's Michael Keaton's Batman that's going to give him that new outfit.
Really?
Yeah. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
On the subject of canceling Batgirl, I think that I want to use another example of something. I just saw the Conan the Barbarian film for the first time. I didn't see it back when it came out. I know. And
You
I love
mean-
Conan. I'm a huge Conan fan.
Now, are you talking Jason Momoa or Arnold Schwarzenegger?
I'm talking Jason Momoa.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I had not seen that version of it because most of the people that saw it said, this is not a great movie, so I didn't rush out to see it. Even though I was a fan of Momoa back then. I think that you only get so many stabs at a certain character. And like if you have Conan the Barbarian and it doesn't do well, they don't go, oh, well, let's get another film out immediately on this because we just didn't do it right. You could kill it for 10 years. You could kill it for 100 years. John Carter, Warlord of Mars, was destroyed by, pumping $250 million into a movie that no one wanted to see.
I like
And
John Carter. I still do. I'll admit it.
John Carter's one of my favorite characers of all time.
No,
I
but
wanted that thing to
even the
do.
movie, though. Even the movie. I thought it was not as bad as people.
I
I
agree with
think
you on
you're
that
right.
one.
They took it serious. I mean, it's too bad. But again, if you don't nail it, you don't get that second movie. And no one is clamoring to get another John Carter movie out,
Right.
even with a totally different creative deal. They say no one wants to see John Carter now. So you only get a certain number of stabs at this thing. And if Batgirl was terrible, then you could kill that character for 40 years. You may never see Batgirl again. So I think their thought was, instead of putting out a movie that's going to destroy the character, you shelve it and then you leave that piece on the table, for someone else to interpret and put out, maybe a better product or something. I think it's pretty bold. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I wish that they had, I could pick other movies that I wish that they had never come out with, because you're going to kill this product. Fantastic Four is another great example of that came out through Fox. I mean, what else did you think was going to happen when you had a bunch of people involved that were going to fix the Fantastic Four? They were not fans of the Fantastic Four. And so they said, oh, we're going to fix all these terrible things.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, just do a different movie, do another movie, do something else entirely different, and leave Fantastic Four for people who get it.
G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra is another example.
Right.
That first G.I. Joe movie.
Right, for sure.
Because, they got the...
Michelle caught my Momoa name drop there.
No, it was Mimosa.
Suddenly she gets...
Jason Mimosa.
But yeah, they the same thing happened with that first G.I. Joe movie, where they got the director of The Mummy, and his whole thing was like, if you remember the accelerator suits, he just threw that in there because he thought it was a cool
because it'd be
thing.
cool.
He
and
had
it's
it,
like,
he had that idea for another movie, but he thought it would be good to insert it into G.I. Joe.
Imagine if that guy was a fan of the old animated series and he took something from the old animated series and said, I thought this was cool, I wanted to put it in the film. It would have been received so much better.
Yeah, and that's what happened in the second movie. I mean, if they had just had a little bit more faith with John M. Chu and given him a lot, more money,
Justin,
that final act would have been a lot better.
This is kind of tied to your comment. I think one thing is that we're very spoiled in our current state. And
absolutely.
I think what I would like to see all content creators do is take a step back and say, it doesn't all need to be tentpole stuff. It doesn't need to be, multi-million, billion-dollar things. You can have let us get a low budget, doesn't need to be bad, but a low budget superhero movie that's maybe I feel like you could get a really cool low budget Resurrection Man or Hawkman, where it's just you don't need a lot of special effects. You just have
Animal Man.
People like him doing.
The Question, yes.
Yeah, the Question could be a great low budget, low special effects kind of thing. It's just a good gritty story, detective.
Yeah.
Oh man, The Question would be awesome.
And I feel like again, DC has so many small characters that are very beloved.
So true.
Give us an animated Plastic Man movie. Holy crap! That
would be
yes. Right.
I will. I'm gonna throw this nugget out there since I'm a huge Pee Wee Herman fan. They were thinking of having him play Pee Wee Herman or
Pee Wee Herman's
Plastic
like
Man.
Man?
Back in
Plastic
the
Man
80s.
playing Pee Wee Herman.
That's
Back in the 80s.
not a bad idea.
That would have been great to have Pee Wee Herman as Plastic Man.
Not a bad idea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the DCEU thing, I want to say that, you know, they have screwed that up so bad now. I don't know how you put that genie back in the bottle. I mean, how is it that we haven't had like a Superman sequel?
Yeah.
How is that possible? How is it
Or
that the
like you're saying, Green
DCEU
Lantern
never
was
had a
salt of the
Batman
earth,
film?
Green Lantern stuff.
Green Lantern.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, Green Lantern is completely absent from the, and again, that goes back to the, you know, only having a certain number of stabs at that. You know, they kind of spoiled. I'm sure that they got punchy about the subject of Green Lantern because the last time they tried that, it didn't work out so well.
Yeah.
You know?
And
Hello,
you
Ronnie.
know, not a big fan of the Justice League movie, but Cyborg was definitely my favorite character in that movie. And
Well, if you watch the Snyder Cut,
That's
he
what I'm
was
talking
very
about.
much. I mean, he had a lot of character
That's-
moments in that were cut out of the, you know, the theatrical version.
and that's what I'm talking about, because that was, to me, that was the
And it
most
wasn't just him. The Flash had a lot of character moments that weren't in there.
I think Cyborg in that movie was the most important character. That's the one that I liked the most. Everybody else was just kind of, you know.
Also,
Affleck plays a good Batman. I'll give that, but as far
I
as
love the
other
Affleck
characters,
Batman,
it's just,
actually. You know, the DCEU, I don't want it to be the MCU. DC has a different tone to it and a different vibe. Let them do let them do their own thing. I mean, the MCU is not making, you know, the best movies that have ever been on celluloid or whatever. I mean, come on.
Love and Thunder was a disappointment for me.
Oh,
okay.
terrible.
I mean, you're not alone on that. A lot of people hated that. You know,
I liked it.
I mean,
okay, I did too.
I don't.
Wrong.
I mean, I don't.
Oh my God.
I mean, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It's just that no more Taika Waititi. You know, no more Taika. No
You've
more.
had enough of him.
I've had enough of him. Yeah.
See, I'm like, you can give him money and just let him do whatever he wants. Make his vampire stuff, his pirates.
I mean, as far as MCU, we don't. I don't.
I'll give you that. Like, one of the criticisms were valid. Like, I really didn't like that they're back Natalie Portman and kind of make her just the subplot thing. That's really all
she should have been. She should have been the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
But
I think that if, I don't know, it would be interesting to sit in that board meeting and say, what are we going to do continuity wise for the next 10 years? I don't know what you do now.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you get out Flashpoint, you get out your Flash movie and see if that allows you to reset the whole thing and start over again. You know, but I wouldn't, again, I would like to lobby for not copying the MCU. Do your own thing.
Yeah.
The continuity thing is great, but you know, create your own, you know, vibe and stuff. The stuff, Greg, that you mentioned earlier, like the Joker film or the Dark Knight the Dark Knight trilogy or whatever, you know, those succeeded because they took a different, I mean, those are very different in tone for MCU movies.
Right.
And they did quite well.
Mm-hmm.
The new Batman film is a good example.
The
taking
Batman was good.
I thought it was really good.
I love that.
I thought it was really good. You know, I think
for the first time in a long time, Batman was being a detective on the screen.
And also, he's got this whole clockwork Gotham City that felt like its own character, which it does in all the movies.
Yeah,
it felt like it continues to tick on without Batman or Bruce Wayne.
Totally
right.
It's like it's its own thing that's cycling through. It made it to me. It felt like some of the Arkham games, you know, in some of the best possible, or like the long runs of Batman where you get to see different villains. I think that's exciting. I think that's really
because one of the things that really made me mad about the Batman v Superman is like, excuse me, Bruce Wayne Batman, you're the detective and you didn't recognize that guy didn't figure out, put two and two together about your former employee with the Lex Luthor stuff. Come on, you're Batman.
There's more than one thing in that movie that I
know. I picked that movie apart after I saw it on TV at home because I fell asleep in a movie theater. But
I was honestly surprised that the studio released it as is, because I'm like, a lot of this is just not even coherent movie making. It's not a
mess.
story that your average viewer can follow.
I mean, I'm one of those type of guys who like is super nitpicky about details, and Bruce Wayne falling into the dust cloud of his building, falling down, and then he gets in there and the dust is all cleared and he has no dust on his face or on his suit. And I'm like, hang on a second, what's going on here? I mean, this is supposed to remind us of 9/11, and he's not covered in soot. Come on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've covered this.
The soot didn't bother me, but Martha.
Martha.
Yeah.
That
was like, that's kind of a cool little trivia thing. Oh, you're making it a major plot point.
That's when I went, nope, I'm out of here.
I want you to imagine that you're Zack Snyder, and they say, okay, here's what we need. The studio says, here's what we need. We have this Superman film, and it was well received. We really liked that Superman film. Good job. Now, what we want you to do is in the next movie, we want you to introduce Batman. Okay, I can put Batman in there. Oh, and Wonder Woman's got to be in there too. Oh, okay, I'll put Wonder Woman in there too. That's good. Okay, and then also we need you to establish the entire Justice League. So, we need you to put Flash in there. We need you to put Aquaman in there.
And you need
to put Cyborg in there.
But not Lobo.
Right, definitely not Lobo. And we need you to wrap all of this up within 2 hours. We need all of this to happen, and they need to fight each other, and they need to also fight Lex Luthor. Which, by the way, you're also going to put Lex Luthor in there, and you're going to follow up on everything that you did in Superman, and you're going to have to bring it in 2 hours.
Oh, and not only that, we also want you to introduce Doomsday and kill Superman at the end of the movie.
Exactly. I mean, Zack
and we'd
Snyder
like it
was
to look
given
like a
an
legal
impossible
brief.
task.
We're calling it Batman v Superman, like they're suing each other.
Right.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that was an impossible task. They should have, if you're following the MCU, you have, about 4 years of movies there where you establish these different characters, and then you have the big crossover movie. You call that Justice League, and all of them get together. But no, they did it all in one movie.
Yep.
Not an easy task.
Kind of like how they did the New 52.
Right.
Let's introduce the Justice League. Oh, by the way, every comic book after this they haven't formed yet.
Right.
Exactly. All right, we're going to move on to On Blast. All right, On Blast is our thing where we talk about things that we watched or read or played, like games we played, anything that we want people to know about. If you've read a new comic or something, that's what we want to know. So first up on that, I'm going to go to Scott.
Oh, I'm first.
You're first.
So excellent. So this weekend I went to OFCon, a convention here in Oklahoma City. One of the oldest comic conventions, I think, in the country. That's what they say.
That's what they said in Oklahoma.
I recently went to New Orleans and I bought a book called The Shadow Scrapbook, and I took that to the show with me because one of the authors, it was written by Maxwell Grant, who has passed away, and a guy named Anthony Tollin. Anthony Tollin is still alive, and he's there. He was there. He also is the publisher, formerly Nostalgia Press. Now it's called Sanctum Books, I think. And they did the reprints of the Shadow books. If you saw several, years ago they put out the reprints. They did Doc Savage. They did, I think they did the Avenger. I think they did like G8 maybe or something like that. But it's pulp size. It's a reprint. They have 2 or 3 stories. I have a handful of them. I bought a bunch of them from this guy, and so I have been reading The Shadow.
Cool.
And I love The Shadow. The Shadow is one of my favorite characters. Goes public domain in 5 years, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And and yes, and anyway, so I have been reading The Golden Master, which is the introduction of Sherwan Khan, who was the villain from the lamented Shadow movie back in the day. But Sherwan Khan was in 4 of the Shadow stories. And it's been a while since I've read a Shadow book or pulp, and I had forgotten the weirdness of them. And I'm enjoying this so much because I read a sequence today at lunchtime. It was probably about 10 pages where this girl they were going to kidnap her, so Sherwan Khan had hypnotized her. And they disguised her as an Oriental woman. She thought she was Oriental, but no one thought she was Oriental except for herself. So the thugs, as they're called in the book, had her hidden in this in the parlor of a darkened the darkened parlor of an old building with moldy furniture in it, I believe is the quote from the book. And so at night, the Shadow broke in there and he fought these gangsters, and his 45s were staccato reports going off, and it was just over. It was just that thunderous pulp writing, and in my head I could see it, and I thought, man, I wish the Shaw Brothers had made a Shadow movie, because he did jujitsu, he had guns, he got thrown out the window, and 3 or 4 of the Chinese gentlemen tumbled out after him, but he managed to hang on. He climbed back in and shot his way out of there. It was amazing. I am in love with The Shadow, and that's what I've been doing, is reading those old pulps. I love that stuff. It was exciting. There's 153 volumes out
Wow.
that Sanctum Press has put out. I'm gonna buy the full Megillah. I bought
Whoa!
I bought a backpack's worth at the show, and he took PayPal, so I was okay. They're not cheap, so they're $15 a piece, so it's a financial commitment. I won't do it all at once, but yeah, I'm gonna do that, because I figure at some point in my life I will retire and I can read them. Maybe if I'm lucky, between the time I retire and the time I die, maybe I can read them all 2 or 3 times. That's been one thing that I have done since we last spoke. I watched I watched Thor. What was it? Love and Thunder. Yeah, the less said about the better. I did not make it all the way through. I thought it was a little. Anyway, I did.
Line explains the title, Scott.
I did watch a great documentary though, and I'm going to butcher the name of it, but because it's a French documentary, but I think it's called The Marvel Renaissance. It's about Marvel Comics, circa early 90s to up to about Iron Man being released. Somewhere it was.
Oh.
I think it ends
It's French.
It is French, but it's all in English. The only part that is French is some of the narration.
All right.
And I was gifted a copy of it, so I don't know where to tell you to watch it, because I haven't been able to find it anywhere. But it's called I think it's called The Marvel Renaissance.
Cool.
But it interviews people that I've never seen before, like lawyers at Marvel, and they talk about how Marvel, the missteps that were made in a business sense in Marvel Comics, and what led to their bankruptcy. And it talks to creators and how the bankruptcy affected them. and it talks about how the movies affect them. And it's interesting. A lot of them were not thrilled when Disney bought them, but it's a great movie. It talks about some of the stuff that we talked about earlier, talking about the DCU, and you mentioned I'd like to see some of these boardroom or I'd like to be in the boardroom meeting where they talked about this. And if you're interested in the nuts and bolts of comics, or the business angle, maybe I should say, rather not the creation, but just the business aspect, I thought it was a really interesting documentary, and I recommend watching that for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. I'm a big fan.
I'm sure Scott could say more.
I'm a big fan of The Shadow too. I actually just read, because I was following up on the copyright of The Shadow. I looked that up a little bit and read some stuff on it. So are the things that you're reading the stuff that was written in like the 30s?
Yes.
Because they had radio plays, and those were so popular that they started writing.
Orson Welles did
yeah,
some radio stuff,
which would probably be cool to hear those old things. I don't even know if they're available, but
they're readily available. There are podcasts that all they are is run the old radio shows, but it went from like the 30s to the 50s. There's a ton of them out there.
That's amazing.
Boy,
and you're right.
Like you should find somebody who likes to write pulp stuff and collaborate or something.
Yeah. if only I knew somebody like that.
Well, also, you're saying it's up in 5 years. That'll, I think you could finish the first issue in that time.
Or probably. Sure. I'll work on it. You give me a script.
That was gentle ribbing. That was,
Hey,
I know. That's okay.
I'm ready to do some pinups.
There you go.
Yeah, I love The Shadow. Okay, Walt, you're up next, man.
So, like Scott, I watched Thor, Love and Thunder. I watched it all the way through.
This weekend, you also watched it?
Actually, I watched it a few weeks ago, and I watched it multiple times just so I could, see what I was watching was what I was watching. Yeah, they're a little lacking on story on that one. I will say that I enjoyed looking at Natalie Portman's arms.
She had 2 tickets to the gun show.
Oh man, she had some really nice guns going on there. Let's see. Of course, I've been watching She-Hulk. I'm enjoying the hell out of that. That's pretty funny. And oddly enough, I'm enjoying the flack about it more than I am the show. Because I still can't get over the twerking, and Madison is my second favorite person in there now. Other than that, let's see. A couple of weeks ago, I showed you I bought this, this Kakashi Sensei figure. I finally took it out of the package today. But over the weekend, I was like, you can't have Kakashi Sensei without his #1 student, Naruto. So I got the little Naruto shit figure.
Cool.
But yeah, other than that, with things that have been going on with me these past few weeks, not a lot's going on. So
right, you've had to deal with a lot of other things besides.
Yeah, I'm still dealing with a lot of other things. So
you are,
So that's it for
I got you, man. That's all right. It's all right. All right, Greg, you're up.
I am really psyched about Halloween Ends.
Oh yeah.
So what my girlfriend Sarah, I don't know if she's watching or not. Hello, Sarah, hopefully. But
she should be watching.
We're going through all the old Halloween movies and watching them. And
oh, cool.
I was like, all right, finally I'm gonna commit to buying the ones I didn't have yet, which is some of the stuff in the middle that's not as good. But it's been a lot of fun. And if you haven't seen the recent ones, the David Gordon Green ones, I really think those are very good. They were going to do them one a year.
Yeah, they're good. They're really good.
I know people who hate on them, and they're uneven, and there's some corny moments, but Halloween from 2018 and then Halloween Kills from last year, they're pretty good. They're fun. I think that the Halloween is better than Halloween Kills, but I'm excited to see what they're going to do this year. And what can I say? I'm a sucker for a serial killer, and Michael Myers. Different motivations over the years. Like last night, we just watched the third one, which doesn't even have Michael Myers in it, except on TV. But
Halloween, Halloween,
the third Halloween.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Silver Shamrock.
I love that movie.
Yeah. It's so weird. It's like not a movie even. It's like it's trying to trick you into thinking it's a movie, but it's some other weird thing.
Right.
I was telling this to Sarah. I was bragging to her. I went to a Comic-Con and oh my gosh, wait a minute here. Hold on a second. I don't want to. I didn't remember if it was Atkins or Adkins. Okay, yeah, no, it's Atkins. Tom Atkins, the star of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, he actually bought some Monstrous comics. He was a really nice guy.
Oh,
That's cool.
That's cool.
It was pretty cool. He's in Night of the Creeps. He's in some really, really cool, weird stuff. But that's definitely an outlier, Halloween 3. And, I feel like too few people have seen it. It's a drug trip of a movie, but it's really fun.
Is.
And what's wild about that movie is that I've seen it like maybe 3 times, and all I can remember is that stupid song.
Yeah.
I don't remember what happened. In fact, right now, I can't tell you what happened in that movie.
Well, I could tell you, but it doesn't make a lick of sense. So
no. But I just remember like seeing the movie the first time, not liking it, but walking around school going, "Have a happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween."
You have anything else, Greg?
No, that's what I've been up to lately. That's the new stuff. I'm always so far behind on everything cultural.
Yeah,
because you're busy writing.
No kidding.
That's what we'll call it.
Justin said that's my favorite Halloween movie out of all of them.
It really is.
I guess he's saying
else.
Halloween 3. I watched it 1,000,000 times on HBO.
Okay.
Like every time it would come on, I would watch it.
I need to watch it again.
It's weird.
I'll watch
it's just
that.
A weird
worth a
movie.
rewatch. And it's not wrong. Well, like there's like major plot points, and I'm like, I don't remember that happening. It's like a fever dream. It's so weird.
Yeah, and it's it's got that kind of, well, I won't say.
It's 80s movie.
Yeah, it's an 80s movie, fully an 80s movie, and apparently when they were doing the Halloween movie to start with, the series of Halloween movies was not supposed to always be the same character. It was supposed to be a different story each time. So they screwed that up
with Halloween 2.
Yeah, with Halloween 2, and then they tried it with Halloween 3, and that didn't go over so well. They went back to the main character.
Yeah, I love
all right.
There's been like diagrams that people have put together to try to
really
it's really weird. Like they have like a whole flow.
Shoehorn it in.
Because they rewrite it and they reboot it and all this weird stuff going on. And I don't know. I could jump in anywhere and have a pretty good time.
Yeah.
He goes up against Ant-Man.
All right. My stuff is, I'm going to try to go through these quick as possible. I've been watching movies lately. I mentioned earlier that I watched Conan the Barbarian, and I'm a big Conan from back in the Savage sort of Conan days when I would go to Lake Eufaula. I would go to the 7-Eleven that's in Lake Eufaula. I called that Civilization because they had like Savage Sword of Conan and they had video games. And so I would get one of those and, pour over it and read it many, many times. That was really kind of my introduction to Conan. I read the books later on. I think I have a pretty good feel of, how Conan should be. The Conan the Barbarian movie from 2011, I believe it was, with Jason Momoa. The first 30 minutes of that movie is Conan as a child. It's less than, the movie is less than 2 hours. You're going to give me a quarter of the movie with Conan as a child? That's ridiculous. And I realize why they do that, because they set up the motivation for Conan with that character. That could have been a 5-minute flashback, not
I
a
think they had Ron
30-minute.
Perlman, and they wanted to just give him something to do.
That's what Sean Wilson said, is that they had to justify their expense for Ron Perlman. Hire someone other than Ron Perlman if you've got to justify your expense there or something, whatever. Jason Momoa was too young for the role at the time. I think that Momoa as an older guy, like right now, would be an amazing, Conan. I still think he would. I liked the fact that he was kind of leaner than Schwarzenegger, which kind of goes toward the kind of Panther-like, thieving abilities or whatever of Conan. So I think that worked. The movie was trying too hard to be modern. I think I really the score was terrible.
Yep.
I was fine with the bad guys and stuff, but them trying to explode horses and stuff and have them flip over each other and all this sort of stuff, it was just stupid. The guy who directed, I had to look it up. The guy who directed it was a video, like a music video director, and apparently they gave him a series of films that were all flops. And it's like, at what point do you go, hey, this guy should go back to directing videos? He may be great at visual stuff, although I didn't really see that in that movie.
I thought him fighting the sand people was pretty cool. It was very.
I've heard that mentioned several times. Actually, people really like the sand stuff, and I liked how gory it was. I thought they got that right, but I just think that they missed the story overall, and they largely missed the tone. The tone of the thing was just not right. It wasn't a Conan film, in my opinion, and they didn't have the cinematography wasn't there. The direction wasn't there. That was two of the big things.
Have you seen Kane?
What's that?
Solomon Kane. Have you seen Solomon Kane?
No. How is that?
Solomon Kane, I think they did a better job than they did with Conan.
Okay.
That's James Purefoy as the title character. Another Robert E. Howard creation, also in comics, but not as many comics. But I think those are quality comics and a decent movie. Again, it's one of those ones where it's clearly a low budget movie, but
that's okay.
Justice, and they keep the tone, and it has that pulpy feel to it.
Okay.
I recommend it, but that's me. I mean, I've already talked.
I will check that out.
Yeah,
I'll check that out.
It's pretty good.
Well, I'm interested. Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with Solomon Kane. I hadn't heard much about that movie. That's another case. So.
It was bigger in Europe. I'm not sure why. And it had a wider marketing and release. I don't know. But I'm a fan of Solomon Kane, and I feel like there's enough of the same DNA in Conan as there is in Solomon.
Sure.
And it's like, I don't remember if I watched it. I feel like they came out sometime around each other, but like
they were
I think
close.
Solomon Kane is considerably the better movie.
Very cool. Yeah, I'll check that.
Well,
that's a good shout out.
And Kane's Kane's kind of an odd character because he's not a barbarian. He's
very dour.
Yeah, he's very dour. Puritans aren't really like in now, I mean,
it's not the Puritan moment,
right? Yeah, and so I think it was probably always a hard sell, and I think that movie just came out and vanished. It's kind of like, why did John Carter or Mars come in or whatever it's called, John Carter come in and disappear? Yeah. Sometimes that stuff just doesn't take hold, and I think that maybe the Solomon Kane, that may have been the Solomon Kane deal. If it had been associated with Conan somehow, maybe pitched as, by the creator of Conan, who knows,
They had a crossover in the comics, and that actually might have been good for them too. Like this
might have been.
I think both characters are best when they're played off of another character.
Yeah,
for sure. All right, I got. I think that Conan would be really great on as a television series.
Mm-hmm.
Take all of these sets and the money that they have on the Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings or whatever, and put that into a Conan series that's made for adults and that has the right tone and stuff on it. That would be wonderful, I think. Okay, so my next movie is Ad Astra. I think I mentioned that earlier. I'm not going to go much into it. I'm the type of guy who likes kind of slow, methodical science fiction movies. So I really didn't have a problem necessarily with the pacing. I can take a lot of pacing. I have a pretty good appetite for that sort of thing, but it has to lead somewhere. You've got to pay off at the end of the movie. You really got to, give it to me. And if you're going to spend all of this money building up the thing and, and the payoff is that it's like a character movie or something, and the end of it, by gosh, that guy really grew at the end of that movie. That's not going to be good enough. I mean, you've got the whole premise of the movie is that you've got this thing, you have this guy's father who has created some sort of, they're looking for intelligent life. So there's a potential payoff at the end of the movie. And you have this other thing where there's like this antimatter that could literally destroy the entire solar system. That's a potential payoff. Let's just say it didn't pay off with either of those two things. And if you're going to have this, kind of this slog of a movie with all of this character introspection, you better give me something at the end. And I don't feel like they did that. I thought it was beautiful, well acted, interesting. The scene on the moon where they had the lunar rovers, kind of the Mad Max versus lunar rovers scene. I thought that was pretty cool.
That scene is cool.
If you had more of that throughout the movie, that would have been better. Or if you had this real weird, esoteric ending on it that really made you walk out of there going like, what was that all about? That would have been awesome, but that's not what they did. I also watched, and I realized this is way off topic for this show. I watched Grand Budapest Hotel. If you're into Wes Anderson films, this is a Wes Anderson film. And
did you not like Grand Budapest Hotel?
I loved Grand Budapest Hotel,
okay.
but I also realized that a lot of people who are watching this are going to be like, Wes Anderson films, I can't take it.
Yeah.
Or whatever. If you like Wes Anderson films, this is yet another Wes Anderson film, and it totally delivered. It's, wonderful. I mean, I like every Wes Anderson film, and I like a lot of people say that they don't like auteur directors or directors that have this kind of vision for their films and stuff. I love that. I say give auteur directors a big lump of money and let them do whatever in the hell it is that they want, because they're going to at least produce something that's different than all the other crap that you see out there. And Wes Anderson is very good about delivering that sort of stuff. I think it's endlessly fascinating to see that guy like literally create models of sets and use those purposely. Like, he could do CGI like everyone else, but instead what he does is he gets old model makers and has them create sets and the Grand Budapest Hotel as a model, and because of his artistic vision. And I think that's pretty wonderful. But I also understand that a lot of people out there who are watching this are going to be like, I don't, Wes Anderson.
People who don't like Wes Anderson movies, I think, should still probably check out Grand Budapest Hotel, Moonrise Kingdom, and
yes,
like those three, I think, transcend whatever eccentricities or quirks you don't like about Wes Anderson.
What was the one with the dogs? The Dog Island?
Isle of Dogs.
I love dogs.
Isle of Dogs. That movie, I watched that movie 3 or 4 times because
I love that movie.
That movie is great.
That's that. I mean, it's stop motion animation.
Fantastic.
You did that like the, Rudolph things and stuff, but it's it's has dogs as the stars and stuff. Okay, well, maybe I am speaking to my audience here. I love it. I mean, I was going to watch the French Dispatch, but I thought I haven't seen Grand Budapest Hotel, so I should probably watch it first. So I watched that, and I watched French. Those are both available on HBO Max. So if you're interested, plus I think pretty much everything else. It's so. The lengths that he goes to for a bit is pretty amazing. I think, just for a little, you're not going to roll on the ground, but you're going to chuckle.
Yeah.
And he will go to
Yeah,
full length to make that happen. I think they're pretty wonderful movies. All of them are really good. The final thing that I have is a book that I finished called A Star Curiously Singing, and it's set far in the future where Muslims have taken over the entire earth and have implemented all of the rules in a future society. And this one guy has his mind is jacked into, like the internet or whatever. And it also allows them to control him. So he's not supposed to have certain thoughts about the government, and he's not supposed to have certain thoughts about like this girl that he's interested in. And he's one of the few people that are allowed to reach out and use this information stuff. It's jacked into his head. Everyone else doesn't have access to that information. They've banned books and all this sort of stuff. And then he gets sent up to like on one of those space elevators to a base where he's supposed to fix this robot. And this robot has been to Beetlejuice. And for some reason, the robot is malfunctioning or whatever, and he has to figure out what the issue is. And so the story is basically about a lot of things, including, what it would be like to have the internet jacked into your head, and what it would be like to, like, every time you think the wrong thing, to get a headache or to be controlled, that people literally have a thing that they control him if he doesn't do what they ask him to do. I think it's pretty fascinating, and and it has kind of that, weirdness of what the heck is going on here that I missed in Ad Astra. It has it in this book, and I think it's pretty interesting. Explores a lot of interesting things. So there we go. It's called A Star Curiously Singing. All right, that's what I got. That's our show, folks. Let's do promo time. So, Scott, you're up first. Tell us where to find you.
The best place to find me is probably on Facebook. I'm Scott Sackett on Facebook. I have a website, scottsackett.org. It's right here. You can find me there. I'm on Instagram. I'm Scott Sackett on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel. I'm on Twitter, but I rarely am on there. And I have a comic book coming out tomorrow. So
get to your local comic book store.
So he's at the comic book store.
I am. I will be at the comic book store. And tomorrow I'm doing a signing here in Oklahoma City at New World Comics, 4:30 to 7.
Yeah, cool. Greg, where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook. It's Greg Wright Author. My Twitter handles are Greg Henchman and Greg Wright Books. And you can find me on TikTok. It's my name, Greg Wright, but I think it's Greg Wright 55 is the username. I make dopey little, paranormal investigator videos and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
You should have led with that.
It ties in with my my novel series Tabloid, because they're paranormal investigator journalist types. And I do other stuff too with it, but yeah. So you
really do like some ghost hunting or something?
What's that?
You really do ghost hunting or whatever?
Yeah, no. I do these goofy videos. I have a friend who is a licensed paranormal investigator, but again, it's mostly just like looking in my own basement at stuff, and
okay.
It's humor first. It's not like there's no research. Sometimes I'll send out psychic messages. Right. Tell me you're psychic without telling me you're psychic. All right, that kind of thing. So
I got it.
Yeah, exactly. You can check out. You can check out Heaven's Rejects. That's coming out tomorrow. Monstrous, Claim, Holliston, Wild Bullets. Lots of cool stuff. If you like anything that I'm talking about here, if you check out any of those, you probably like the other stuff. I just plagiarize myself mostly, so it's all the same thing.
Plagiarize yourself.
Why not?
It's good. Hey, if it works, it works.
Right.
All right, Walt, what about you?
You can find me here. That's my Facebook page, but you can also find me at What Studio Art Blogspot, where I rarely even post a blog anymore. You can also find me on Instagram, and my handle there is Gatchaman_1. That's for all of you people who are Battle of the Planets fans or Gatchaman fans. That's also the same title I have, or excuse me, on Twitch. So you can find me there too. Every once in a while, you'll find me playing video games. But you can also get down there to my Zazzle store, and you can buy some really cool stuff, some really cool swag. If you're still like a somewhat semi-germaphobe like I am, because every time I go into Walmart, the mouth breathers are just coughing all over the place. I have these nice little masks with my logo on it. So, and you can get N95 filters to go in there, among other things, coffee mugs and stuff and t-shirts and whatnot. So
there you go.
Soon to be Christmas cards on there.
Michelle says, fun show. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Thank you, Michelle. We always appreciate you watching. You always chime in. I appreciate that. My stuff, the thing I want to emphasize is that I have updated my Ranking Studios profile. I've updated my gallery on there, and I've updated my commissioned art page. I am doing commissioned art, so whether it's portrait art or whether you need help on, whatever you got, covers or pinups or whatever, comic pages, whatever, I'm available. That's it. That's all we got, folks. I want to thank everyone who chimed in tonight. We appreciate you always leaving us a message and talking to our guests. Thanks to Greg Wright for being on the show at the last minute, in the clutch, coming
Like
through
I'd do
for us
anything else any other way.
and helping us out on Comic Book Day Eve.
He was our shortstop today. He was our most important player on the field.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks to Scott, as always great, and Walt. And thanks to everyone who watched tonight. We appreciate it. So until next time, thank you. Until next time, this is Dirk Hooper saying, dream hard.